Travolting presents The Fraser's Edge. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. With 7-time special guest, Mark Tilley.
Here we go, and we're recording.
G.I. Joe! I don't know, what was the theme song for the TV show?
Yo, Joe!
Yo, Joes! I like that part in the movie when the guy's like, ha ha, yo, Joes!
Up front, neither of you guys watched the TV show, right?
No.
Okay, neither did I. Did you have any of the toys?
No.
No.
I have absolutely no connection to G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
I've never played with the G.I. Joe. I've never watched a G.I. Joe until this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Travolting, guys.
Welcome to Travolting.
Jumping right in, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra.
Thank you for listening to our last week episode on
Very Odd Parents
Odd Parents
Wishology.
Wishology. Wow. And
That's why you watched that. I didn't realize he was
and
in
this
that.
is
He's
a
like, okay,
Jeff.
that's
This is a
weird.
milestone movie.
This is a milestone movie.
This is the last movie before we officially cap off his
mainstream
success
era.
era. What a film to cap! This is a good movie to cap.
Yeah,
off
this is
on.
a good cap off. In the sense that he is fully shafted to the
He is
side
fully
in this movie.
shafted to a cameo role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barely a cameo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cameo would at least like call attention that he's there.
I know.
Does not call
I know.
attention that it's
I
Brendan
know.
Fraser.
I know. That, yeah, very reputable sources, Wikipedia says he begged to be in this movie.
That's what I read that
I
too.
know. And that's kind of sad to think that
Yeah.
10 years earlier he'd been headlining this thing.
Yeah.
And probably would have fucking crushed it.
Steven Sommers too.
Steven
Sommers.
Yeah.
And like, we talked about 3 episodes ago, Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which is
Yeah.
not directed by Steven Sommers.
Yes.
Um,
How that movie is a mess.
yeah, we talked all about it. I don't
Yeah.
need to talk anymore.
That was the episode right before. No.
This was 3 episodes ago, I think.
3 episodes.
Or
Yeah.
2 episodes ago.
Because we're very much
3
in
episodes
this Brendan's in full decline at this point. Like it's just sad. All of his, attempts to break out of The Mummy being his only profitable franchise have failed. Looney Tunes didn't work. Bedazzled, Monkey Bone, Deadly Do-Right, all these supposed franchise starters didn't quite work out for him.
Yeah.
All of his dramatic work, it's either a bad movie or he gets overshadowed by the lead role in it.
Yeah.
Your Michael Caine's in Quiet Americans, your literally anyone else in Crash. And then Inkheart's basically the last go at all this for him.
Inkheart. Oh my god.
And he only gets cast in Inkheart because he's who the author had in mind when she wrote the book.
Oh.
If it wasn't for that, someone else gets cast in Inkheart. That's
so it was the author being like,
the author's like, yeah,
I
when I wrote this
really-
book, Brendan's the guy.
oh, weird.
And so if that doesn't happen, he's not in Inkheart.
Okay.
Someone else is going to get cast in Inkheart. And so that's the last run at it. Tomb of the Dragon Emperor doesn't work out for him. He gets physically broken by that movie. He just
Yeah.
cannot do another.
Yeah.
We talked about this already, but
Yeah.
that is I think Capstone's his last action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
for real.
and that movie calls him old.
Yes.
That movie is you were the father of a
And yet
a grown action hero.
Well, we talked about the last episode.
yeah.
We don't need to relitigate
we
it.
talked
How
about
is
it-
this the one that caps off his mainstream career? I feel like the Fairly Odd Parents movie is
Well,
probably the one that had been
I said it very earlier when we started recording. This is a cameo that's not a cameo.
Yeah.
It really is. A cameo would be
it's like an homage to Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
It is sort of
Barely.
because
It's he's the former guy.
because he is GI.
Sergeant Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason why this and Fairly Odd Parents end this era is Fairly Odd Parents, he's playing a character who is the action hero who missed his chance.
Yeah.
That's his character in the movie, Turbo Thunder. And then in this,
Pretty meta.
He's just the action hero of the past.
Okay.
And so none of the movies after this are quite as introspective.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt like this is the cap off to it.
Yeah.
Because this is the one where it's this is a big movie, and this is the farewell to Brendan the action
Yeah.
star. This and Fairly Odd Parents, which is a very weird lineup.
That is, yeah. Well, I think this movie's failure is that he is not bringing his sort of cartoon action hero sensibility to the
Yeah.
movie, and Channing Tatum is playing it straight.
Yes.
And that's
There's one great performance in this movie.
Shit, fuck. Guys, I'm here. I'm so sorry I'm late. Did you already start?
You
fuck.
God damn it. Oh, shit.
Fuck. I'm
All the way
so
over.
sorry,
All the way
guys.
over. All the way over.
I am
No.
so
Just
sorry.
Jeff down to zoo. Oh.
Are my levels okay?
No, tell me he's leaving. Jeff, tell me he's leaving. Jeff, tell me he's leaving right now. Cole, you have to go to work.
Are my levels good? Stuart, are my levels good? I'm so sorry, guys. Daylight savings time always fucks me over.
Jeff, I'll kill you.
I thought we were doing this an hour later.
I'll kill you. Tell me he's... Hi, Harper. Where's Harper? Is Harper there? Harper's
Hi.
Cole's dog.
Hi, I'm here.
You
Did you
fuck.
guys already start?
Yeah. Well, we
folks,
did, but
You know, and that's all my thoughts that I have on G.I. Joe.
With
guys.
special guest
So we're-
Cole Bradley.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad you guys came to your senses and cut the Brendan Fraser show early and started this like late period Joseph Gordon-Levitt show.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to be here to inaugurate your Joseph Gordon-Levitt podcast.
Yes.
Cole and I have a hard rule where we can't talk before noon. It doesn't even matter what. It's my time zone. It's not his time zone. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Cole, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Doncast Johncast.
Yes.
Because, folks, we're not talking about Brendan Fraser anymore today.
wait, what?
We're talking about... Cole, who are we talking about today?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt giving one of the most unhinged performances anyone has ever given in a movie in the film G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra.
Mark,
I'm delirious. What's happening?
hold my hand. Hold
Jeff,
my hand.
yeah,
I need to
this is a
call my
fever
mom.
dream. What's happening, Jeff?
All right, folks.
Do any of you guys ever watch G.I. Joe? Because
No.
I'm an adult, so I have.
That was the first. It was the first question I asked. None of us.
Well,
watched G.I.
I'm
Joe.
late, Marcus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. He's got shit.
Have a vague understanding of G.I. Joe.
I know
thing-
Ripcord and Duke. I know the names
thing
and the
that's
action figures. That's
insane
it.
about the Joseph Gordon-Levitt performance is even I, someone who's never seen G.I. Joe, I can do a Cobra Commander impression,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of a famous voice.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Do
not.
It. Do it. Do it then.
It's just like you get really high pitched, and it's like almost like Mark Hamill's Joker. I will kill the Joes.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? It's that.
Yeah.
What the fuck is Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing in this movie? Because he's not doing that. And it's, you can't
He's
even
buried
you can't
like
even,
He's like buried 3 rolls deep.
Mark,
Yeah,
Mark Cole.
but it's
Mark Cole.
Dude,
Do you feel in charge?
that's the other thing is that when even if you want to say like he's not playing the commander for most of this movie, like the big reveal moment when he becomes the commander, his voice gets deeper.
Deeper.
No, it's
That is what a true artist does in this role.
because he's already like kind of hard to understand, and then he puts the second mask over the first mask, and it's just like,
Oh, it's fantastic.
I love the wig as a disguise.
Oh my god!
As if he needed the wig. You know what I
Cue the fucking wig ranking right now. This wig is going in the light it
Oh,
on
God.
fire.
If you guys-
light it on fire on his fucking head. Light it on fire on his head.
JGL would have such a good hair ranking if you guys actually did him. Jesus
Oh.
Christ. Can I
What's the best JGL hair?
the best JGL hair
is the
is
walk.
Yeah.
It's the walk wig.
It's the scene in Looper when it goes through his timeline of when he ages.
So this is
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was gonna say, Stuart. It's
Thank you,
future
Cole.
Looper.
With the receding
Or is-
hairline wig.
where he's not Bruce Willis yet,
Yes.
but they're like aging him towards Bruce Willis.
Yes, no, I know exactly where you're at. Like
blonde, right?
We're thinking of the same shot in Looper. I was gonna say fucking Mysterious Skin,
Oh yeah.
I know
his-
no one's
yeah.
seen
No, I've
Mysterious
seen
Skin.
his hair.
but
looks
that
super
hair
cool,
is
yeah.
incredible.
He looks like sad anime boy in that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is it? I'm looking through the.
I
JGL.
love his hair as Brendan and Brick too. The floppy.
Yeah,
hair
I
is
know
so
you
good.
do. It's a
That's
great
that's
haircut.
Great haircut. When did you orchestrate this thing with Cole? When did he come on?
What?
When?
Did you not tell him I was going to be on, Jeff?
I just want to see what
Jeff.
happened.
What are you doing?
I had no idea. Why was I yelling? How
We
long?
definitely
Weeks?
didn't have this conversation at a wedding in July.
Of last year.
I was
That's
not on.
definitely
Was I
not
on
something-
this episode
Yes.
last July?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Cool. Mark, you've been booked for this episode for 10
Oh
months.
my god.
Jeff was talking to Morgan Garrity. And he said basically the only episode we have booked is G.I. Joe. And I was like, what fucking nerd wants to be on the G.I. Joe episode? Because I kind of like that movie. And he was like, Tilly. And I was like, can I be on it too?
Okay, Cole, sorry. I have to just make sure that we have the exact frame of
I'm pretty sure we
Looper
do.
in our head. Okay, it's this.
Drop it in the chat.
It's this shot, right, where he's like looking at the sunset, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah!
Let me see this. Let me see this.
This is. It's
Oh,
when,
no!
it's when he goes in the future
Oh,
and he's
no.
turning into Bruce Willis.
Because there's the montage to like explain Willis's motivations that has to age up JGL.
That shot's
That's
so
a
pretty.
fucking demented
That
performance
shot
too.
is so pretty.
What's the most demented performance Joseph Gordon-Levitt has ever given?
Easy
Is it
answer.
A? Is it A, Cobra Commander, B, The Looper, C, Philippe Petit, or D, Jonathan.
It's Don John, baby.
I know, but his Snowden is really weird too.
So here's the thing.
The Snowden. I'm
Folks,
Edward Snowden.
Here's the
I'm Edward Snowden.
here's the-
Nicolas Cage, will you help me out? I'm Edward Snowden.
here's the
The
lead.
thing
I
about
watched.
his Snowden performance, let me just say this, is it is in fact an impeccable impression, right?
yeah.
Like he sounds exactly like the real guy, and yet for some reason it is the most cartoony, unbelievable thing he's ever done.
Do you guys remember the Snowden Comic-Con panel?
No,
They had a
what?
Hall H Comic-Con panel for Snowden, the Oliver Stone, Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie. And I think it came like right before The Force Awakens. It came right before some crazy panel.
Snowden came out a year after
Wait,
that.
no.
Was it maybe like Rogue One?
Let me find out. It was like Snowden was right before some ridiculous, like, I think it was a Marvel movie actually. I'm looking up
In 2016, it wouldn't have been.
I'm looking up the 2016 schedule.
Snowden's
for
fall
Hall H.
2016, right?
Snowden is a September 2016 movie. It's the first movie I ever saw in Chicago in a theater.
I'm so sorry.
That's why I'm so like locked in on the date that Snowden came out, because it's the first movie I saw in Chicago when I moved there.
Wow.
Have you guys seen Snowden?
No.
Yeah, of course, no one
Just
has.
the Rubik's
You know
Cube
how
scene.
like
Just the Rubik's Cube.
biopics love to do the thing where over the end credits they show like photos or videos of the real person,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
that like super hackneyed thing. Snowden ends with him like Skyping in to like a classroom and giving like a talk on like cybersecurity and ethics
Real Snowden
and
or
stuff like
JGL
that.
Snowden?
And it ends with him giving this big heroic speech, and it's a shot of JGL at his computer, right? Like giving this speech, and then it cuts to a shot of like the attentive students listening as his audio plays over, and then it cuts back and it's actual Snowden, and like the
Shot
last 2
reverse
minutes
shot,
of that
baby.
movie
Jesus, yeah.
are actual Snowden
Okay,
giving
that's
this
cool.
speech
That's
about
cool.
the
I
need
like
for
that.
like open information.
I like
It's
that.
insane.
I like that.
Okay, it's a lot funnier.
What is
So
it?
What is it?
Snowden had the 11 a.m. or 11:45 a.m. Hall H slot.
Yeah.
It is followed up by the Valerian and a City of 1,000 Planets.
Yes!
Hall H slot.
Great movie.
Fuck.
Let me see what follows up Valerian.
When you guys do any, Jeff, did you tell Stuart that I have a blanket dibs on Southland Tales?
No.
For
Okay,
what?
Stuart, if you ever do anyone who's in Southland Tales on this show,
You're
I don't
on.
know that you would. I have dibs on that episode. I'm also calling preemptive dibs if you ever do anyone who's in Valerian in a City of 1,000 Planets. if you do Ethan Hawke, if you do Cara Delevingne, if you do Rihanna,
I could
that'd be
see
fun
them
actually.
doing like
Rihanna.
a Clive Owen cast. I could see them doing.
Is he in that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he is in that.
Yeah, I could see them doing.
Yeah,
that.
Clive Owen. Yeah, if you do Clive Owen, I also have some other ones I want, but I definitely want Valerian. A normal movie.
A very normal movie. I've not seen it. I've not seen Valerian.
I was telling Jeff last night, and I'm sorry, but the motion picture G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, turns me into a koala in terms of brain smoothness. And everything in this movie just slides right over my like tiny cranium.
My God. We've really got off the rails.
This is a real, we used to be like a proper country movie. In that it's just so fucking like nothing of a movie.
It's yeah.
It's fascinating
it's a
at the
Super
same
Bowl
time.
trailer movie. I mean, that's what I think of when I watch this movie. I just think of this is the whole movie. It feels like a Super Bowl trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in ways that are like interesting too, right?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Do we want to dive a little bit into the making of this movie?
Sure.
I know like one thing about the making of this movie, so please enlighten me.
So basically, this movie, and like there was like random starts and stops of the making of this movie from like the 80s and 90s. Nothing really comes to fruition through it.
Yeah.
But around 2003, the beginning of 2003, Hasbro and Lorenzo di Bonaventura start talking about the potential of making a G.I. Joe movie.
Okay. 2000, yeah.
The beginning of 2003. The start development of the movie. Don Murphy is also involved at this time. They don't hire a writer yet, but they do just like start talking about it. Then, a few months after they start talking about it, the Iraq War begins.
Yeah.
No studio wants to touch G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And so Don Murphy and DeBonaventura go off, and they're like, well, what's something else in this vein that we can do? And they'd already started talking about like what the basic structure of the movie would be. What's something else we can do?
Can I briefly just sidebar about DeBonaventura for a second? This guy's probably best known as the guy behind the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
But it is worth acknowledging that when he was an executive at Warner Brothers, he is also the guy responsible for Warner Brothers developing both the Matrix and the Harry Potter films. He is like quietly maybe like the most important post Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
Like studio hack producer type.
He gets those major franchises done over at WB. He makes this move into like independent producer, working through Paramount. And you go first.
Oh, I was just saying, and then basically just does Transformers and G.I. Joe movies for the rest of his career.
Yes, he gets really into the Hasbro pipeline.
Yeah. Like he produced like the Pet Sematary remake that sucked and everyone forgets exists. Mm-hmm. But basically he just does toy movies for the rest of his career.
Yeah, the only movies that DeBonaventura post Transformers has done that aren't Transformers or G.I. Joe are Stardust, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, Pet Sematary. That's it.
And there is also a secret Pet Sematary prequel that I believe shot. And is
Paramount
sitting on the
Plus.
shelf. Yeah.
Oh,
weird guy.
He's
weird
also
guy.
producing Madam Web, a movie that is going to come.
God.
Weird.
Movie that's definitely going to happen.
Well, so does he stay at Paramount like post G.I. Joe or?
So
like,
I am now seeing that his Wikipedia is weirdly formated where they list the movies he produced.
Oh yeah,
per
I'm seeing
studio.
this too. Oh,
I missed. There are a few he has done otherwise. He also did Salt, Red, American
Both Meg
Assassin,
movies.
The Megs, Deepwater Horizon.
Constantine.
Yeah, so there's a few others.
Oh, so yeah, his Wikipedia is poorly
formatted.
Oh God, he was involved in fucking Cinestate too. Jesus, weird guy.
Very weird like career from this guy. But he and Don Murphy are working on this. The Iraq War breaks out. Don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They kind of talked about like how they wanted to modernize the property though, and that's very important because they go off and they're like, "What's the other thing we can do?" Transformers.
Yep.
And so they immediately launch into Transformers with Michael Bay. And Spielberg gets involved around that point. We're not doing the Transformers cast. That would be months of my life if we were to do that.
Pardon?
Well, I mean, it's funny that and then this comes back around because Transformers does so well, but that they avoid doing G.I. Joe because of the Iraq War and military. I don't know if this is legit.
Yeah.
But then they do Transformers, then it becomes so military heavy.
Well, because in Transformers you don't have to deal with it being G.I. Joe. You can still do it. You can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I mean,
The thing that's interesting though about their apprehension to doing this is like, for all that G.I. Joe is based on a cartoon and based on a toy line, it's also based on a comic book.
Yeah.
And that comic book is so X-Men-y. It's like so X-Men-y that the guy who wrote that comic book is the guy who they hired to do the Wolverine, like the first proper Wolverine ongoing series. Like a lot of stuff that's happening in the X-Men movies at this time is like rooted in the same sort of comics that the G.I. Joe comics are, which means that that's a movie you could make. You could just make this a superhero movie, right?
And they almost do.
They kind of do. This is a little X-Men 2000 directed by Bryan Singery in its structure.
Yep.
In which they get brought
almost
in.
exactly. Yeah,
and the
first
costuming
act,
too.
In the costuming, the first act of like Wolverine and Rogue on the street, and the X-Men swoop in is the same thing as the convoy. Yeah, that's all.
Well, the thing I
only
find
difference is that's a masterpiece, and this is not.
That movie's so fucking good.
X-Men
the
is
first
great.
hour of that movie. I mean, the whole
You know what's also good, Mark?
Yeah,
the last 40 minutes of that movie.
40 minutes of that movie. Yeah.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me, especially, is that this movie essentially has the same opening as Transformers. Like, the convoy attack in this almost features some of the same shots as the blackout attack at the base in Transformers.
Does Transformers start with a dude getting tortured in the 15th century? Because I'm pretty sure this movie does not.
Transformers the Last Night.
The fifth one does.
I forgot that was the opening of the movie.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Borderline incomprehensible.
You know who else forgot that was the opening of that movie, Stuart?
Who?
The movie once that scene ends. It impacts nothing. It does not matter.
Yeah, it's
just
I thought I was
there.
watching The Man in the Iron Mask for a moment. I'm like, oh shit,
It's
wrong
just
movie. And then I was like, nope, this
there.
is G.I. Joe. Where's Leonardo DiCaprio?
So, De Bonaventura, I just want to quickly read why he really wanted to do a G.I. Joe movie. His exact quote was, the reason he felt a draw to G.I. Joe is because of what the Joes stand for and what Duke stands for specifically in this movie.
Absolutely. I don't know what absolutely.
Now, I will
my
actually
hand
put this out
raised to
there.
my brow.
That I would maybe argue the biggest problem with this movie is that I don't actually know what that means.
No.
Yes,
Like,
they don't stand for anything.
Say what you will about the Transformers movies. I certainly have. And say what you will about Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen. The movie I think this movie is most in conversation with.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie does in fact stand for something. Even if what it stands for is like the purest evil man has ever known.
Revenge of the Fallen is a movie entirely about the president of the United States trying to like deport all the Transformers, and it leads to an alien invasion. That is the plot of that movie.
Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is Michael Bay taking advantage of the writer's strike to fully make a movie that is just his pure concentrated ire for the American public.
Yes.
Just beamed straight back at them like a fucking demented Lacanian mirror.
I love that movie so
I don't think it's
fucking much.
good. But it's
kind of good. Mark, is Revenge of the Fallen kind of good?
No, it's fully kind of good.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
What are you talking
I
about?
think Revenge of the Fallen is kind of good.
I saw Revenge of the Fallen in 2009 and have not watched it
Shut
since.
up. Me too. You don't get to brag
Revenge
about
of-
being alive in 2009.
Revenge of the
I'm
Fallen.
not bragging. I'm just saying I haven't seen the movie in fucking 14 years.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Revenge of the Fallen's the kind of movie where like they're like fighting some CIA Black Ops dudes, and then they're like, what if we went to the pyramids and discovered that they were built by Transformers?
And those Transformers had nuts and pissed on people.
Yes. The
You
enemy
cannot
screwed 'em.
forget that the Transformers have nuts and piss on people.
John Turturro is weeping as he climbs the Great Pyramid of Giza. There's this incredible interview with Turturro where he's just like, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is one of the most incredible productions I've ever worked on. I wept as I stood upon the pyramid.
It's insane that Paramount opened these movies 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Right?
So
They would
close.
never. we got all like pissy as a culture when Disney was like oversaturating tentpole movies in the summer of 2019, when they like were spacing them out like 3 or 4 weeks apart. But even though that's like different branches of the Disney empire, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like having the 2 Paramount toy movies that kind of have a similar ethos to them,
6
in that
weeks
they're
apart.
both kind of about how inane the idea of making a movie out of a toy is. Because I do think that's what this movie is kind of trying to get at. 6 weeks apart is fucking buck wild. And it's not even the weirdest thing about this movie's release date.
And this movie, we'll get to it at the end. This movie is like a moderate success, but I think its relation to Revenge of the Fallen, a movie that made a load of money but got heavily scorned, definitely hurts this movie in its release.
Question.
Answer.
Where's Brendan Fraser in all of this?
No one gives a shit.
We talked about him already.
Did we already?
We started with where he's at.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get to his involvement maybe.
I don't know why you're bringing up Brendan Fraser on the Doncast Johncast.
Yeah, this is the Doncast
as
Johncast.
we've clearly established. Jeff, question. Jeff, I have a question for you. What's your favorite scene in Don John?
Oh my god.
Because mine's definitely the bit where Scarlett Johansson calls him a faggot for liking to clean his apartment.
Yes. He's like, I'm gonna go get a Swiffer.
And she's like, "What are you, gay or something?" But I'm sorry, I'm doing that wrong. It's not a joke. She like grabs him, pulls him in, makes sure no one is like listening, and then goes, "Are you gay?"
It's true.
This is in the grocery store?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic.
It's actually the best scene in the movie.
I mean, it's hard to get over the shock of just the opening of that movie. But I think my actual favorite scene is when she finds him watching porn, and he basically turns into a Tim Robinson character. and he's just
You like movies. They give awards
He's like,
to movies.
You like
they
movies?
give awards
I like
to
movies.
porno.
My movies are great. He's like,
You know
I
who
don't
else
like
is
porn.
in-
I don't watch porn. I like movies.
I will say, an actual thought I had about this movie is that this movie is very much like the kind of movie that they would go see in Don John, down
Yes.
to a checked out Channing Tatum.
Yeah. Oh, that is
hanging out in
actually
it.
a great. So I watched Don John by complete coincidence last week. I was not intending on watching Don John prior to this episode.
Yeah.
It just kind of worked out.
Every man, there comes a moment in his life where he must watch Don John.
Stuart, the bell tolls for thee.
It's coming.
I refuse.
Stuart, you and me are going to watch Don John
No,
together.
we're not. Not together.
I
no.
foresee a world in which Don John becomes a gaudy level obsession for Jeff.
Oh, fuck. I can't. I
So-
can't deal with this.
Cool. Fellas, we got to do something real quick. Ranking his body,
have it here.
his pad, his ride, his family, his church, his boys, his
shit.
girls, his porn. We got to rank them.
If I had seen the movie, I could do that very well, Jeff.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Pad number 1.
It's a good pad.
Impeccable pad.
Had a hard number 1.
I'm gonna say
because-
his family number 2.
Let me
yeah,
do my
quickly.
okay. Pad number 1 because it's a really nice pad. Girls number 2 because ScarJo and Julianne Moore are giving like the most fun performance of that movie. Boys number 3 because the guys in that movie are also fun. Family 4 because you want more of them though, but they're still fine. The car's fine, so that's at 5. The body isn't very good, so that goes at 6. Church goes at 7 because it doesn't actually factor into the movie. And I have to give porn 8 because they didn't actually like pay for licensing for any of those titles. It was like kind of a bit of a controversy at the
Just
time.
filmed porn off of Pornhub.
And it's badly edited porn too. That's my ranking. Jeff, what you got?
I mean, mine's pretty similar. I might swap family and boys.
Sure. I
Because
want
Tony,
more from the
Tony
family.
Danza, though, where he's
Yeah.
styled exactly the same as JGL in that movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
I remember when that movie came out, they really tried to like sell it as an Angels in the Outfield reunion. And that like landed to crickets because
Holy
no one
fuck.
gives a
I
shit
didn't
about
even
Angels in the
realize
Outfield.
that, and I've seen. Fuck. Have you seen Angels in the Outfield?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Mark,
1,000
what's your
times.
ranking?
I would put Body at. No, fuck. I don't know, dude. I'm still weirded out that you're here. Jesus Christ, I was not prepared for this.
Stuart, the opening of Don John is him looking, basically watching porn, and he's like, "There's 8 things that matter to me in life: my body, my pad, my ride, my family, my boys, my girls, my church, my porn." I mixed up some of the order, but
Stuart, I have to stress this. You know how like every trailer these days loves having some like rhythmic percussive like element that loops on itself?
Yeah.
Arguably the Don John trailer invented that, but the loop was my body, my pad, my ride, my family, my church, my boys, my girls, my porn. Like it just kept, that was just the trailer, was that audio drop getting faster and faster.
Here's also
I don't want to watch this movie.
No, dude, I have shown
You
this.
wanna watch
I have shown this movie to people who should have hated this movie. I showed this movie to my wife, and she liked it. This movie has such a charm, and it's so insane to watch. You have to watch it. It will win you over. I will also say
we don't have the time.
the thing, it's like 90 minutes. You're fine. The thing about his body, because he's supposed to be like a New Jersey Guido who loves working out. He's supposed to be like a fucking Jersey Shore guy.
But isn't the body part of the
like,
joke though? That's what I'm thinking. You rate body too low.
I can't tell if that's part of the joke.
His body not being fabulous is part of the joke because he thinks it's so great, but it's not.
I can't tell.
I think JGL is smart enough for that. I think he is.
I don't know that he is though, because he
into the mic.
He famously said that the reason he liked shooting Mysterious Skin is because Greg Araki was the first person to film him as like a sexual being, and that he loved feeling hot.
All right,
on
so
screen.
G.I. Joe guys,
it's so weird that when he directs himself,
starts off with a 15th
Well,
century.
sorry, I got finished the context corner.
When I say Yo Joe, I'm talking about
We
JGL.
have been talking for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Some episodes haven't even been that long of the show. And we have not even begun talking about G.I. Joe.
Stuart, you asked me to be on this episode.
I didn't ask you to be on this episode. Jeff did.
3 hours.
Don't you breathe an evil at me, Ricky Bobby.
All right. So, 2 years after the Iraq War begins, the U.S.
Is this the best episode of this podcast?
So, the U.S. military is closing in on Saddam. We're about a year and a half out from getting
I need
him.
to fucking go.
You haven't even introduced Ahmed Chalabi, okay? You got to go back to the early 80s.
So,
Stuart, you can be upset, but this is the energy of G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra.
We're about a year and a half out from Saddam being captured. Actually, wait. Let me quickly fact check that because I realized I was looking at the wrong thing.
Fuck.
I was looking at the wrong thing. He was okay. No, he's been captured already. He hasn't been executed though. This is the time frame. So the U.S. military's captured Saddam. So like they're like, all right, we can put G.I. Joe back in production.
It's like, all right, this is behind us. Green light.
In February 2005, De Bonaventura is finishing up post working on his movie Four Brothers with John Singleton, and he just takes the writers from that movie and puts them on G.I. Joe.
Four Brothers, another famously normal movie.
Does that one have Mark Wahlberg in it?
Yes, it does.
Oh my god.
So one of the big things they do at that time is they move a character from the British Action Man toy line into the movie. And I'd like to read you De Bonaventura's reason why they put Action Man in this movie. Unfortunately, Bush has put us in a position internationally where it would be very difficult to release a movie called G.I. Joe. To add one international character to the mix is a sort of fun thing to do.
Oh my god.
What? That doesn't make any sense at all. What?
There were two.
I thought
Arguably, I will say this. Arguably, the most fun decision this movie makes is like trying to reframe G.I. Joe as like a UN international team and putting Adewale Inokuye Adebayo and what's his face, Saeed Tagmawi in the movie as like the other guys who are goofing. Like personally, because those two guys are so fun and they're such good actors, but they do spice the movie up and make it not just like a weird jingoistic fetish text, which like the sequel kind of is.
I've never seen Retaliation, but we'll talk about it at the end.
Stinks,
It's bad.
man.
Yeah.
And it's directed by a real director too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So this script with Action Man in it leaks online. Cobra is not in this movie at this point. They've removed Cobra.
Cobra's technically not in the movie, period.
Yeah, it's the rise of them. We get 20 seconds of Cobra. So this script leaks online by El Mayimbe of Latina Review. It gets such a negative fan reaction from the G.I. Joe heads. And Mayimbe suggests that Stuart Beattie rewrite the script. Bonaventura reads it and is like, sure, I'll hire that guy.
You don't.
So
But
You
did
don't-
that actually happen?
I know he's
That
a
actually
studio plant. I know he's a studio plant, but you really don't ever have to listen to El Mayimbe.
yeah, it's wild that they straight up just listened to him when he's like,
They were like, what had he worked on that he was like, oh yeah, this guy should write the sequel.
He had worked on working for press for studios for like 10 years at that point, because that's what that guy does.
Stuart Beattie.
at this point, Beattie,
The,
Oh,
the
Stuart
writer,
Beattie,
the
not
writer
Mayimbe.
that he would
Yeah.
be like,
At-
oh,
at this
this
point,
is the guy who should work on it.
Beattie's most recent script was Michael Mann's Collateral. He had written
yeah,
Collateral,
yeah. I knew it was
and
a
that's
He
weird
why
wrote
he gets-
Pirates.
Yeah.
He wrote Pirates, dude.
He
Yeah,
did the
yeah.
story for Pirates.
Yeah,
'cause
but he's-
Rossio and fucking what's his name?
If
They're
he,
pirates.
you guys are all smart enough to know this. If he did the story for Pirates, he's fucking doing uncredited shit
yeah.
for all the studios on a major level.
But look at the list of people that they start. Yeah.
Fun fact, Stuart Beattie's career after this, he does a lot of things that don't exist, and then his most recent work is he wrote the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. He wrote 4 episodes of it, which actually explains a lot.
He also
about
wrote Interceptor.
That whiff of a show.
Interceptor, which is a really good like 90s style Elsa Pataki action movie. That like actually rules.
With
But no one saw.
I remember you telling me about this.
It's really good. Oh, I told you because I knew you would
this came out
appreciate
last
it if
year,
I.
right?
It came out last year,
Yeah.
and I knew Jeff, you particularly appreciated me saying there's an action movie that ends with everyone on Times Square watching the hero on like a live stream beat the bad guy and cheering. Like that's how old school this movie is.
It's a good vibe.
That's my kind of movie. At that point, Stuart Beattie's rewriting the script. In 2007, Stephen Sommers pitches Paramount that he wants to do this movie. His pitch impresses them, and they hire him. He was apparently inspired that he wanted to do this movie because he visited the Hasbro headquarters with his kids, just like tour it, and he saw like a G.I. Joe toy, and he's like, that's a good movie right there. He's coming off of Van Helsing at this point.
Yeah, this is my question because you guys know more about Stephen Sommers than I do. Has he been let out of the jail that they put him in after Van Helsing, where he clearly belonged? Like, what's the story there?
He hasn't made a movie in 3 or 4 years.
So-
probably,
Yes, because he was in solitary confinement where he belongs.
So he does Mummy Returns, and then he goes and does Van Helsing, which by all counts and purposes is like a kind of passion project for him.
Which is insane because it's a fucking disaster.
Van Helsing, also a Becca studio classic.
Really?
Becca likes 2 types of movies: good movies, and then early 2000s bad action movies like Equilibrium and Van Helsing. She is coming out of the room. Get on the mic.
Hold on.
Get on the mic.
Don't you fucking denigrate Equilibrium in that fashion.
Cole's defending Equilibrium.
Equilibrium rules.
I love Equilibrium. I can't hear.
Yeah,
Mark.
it's great.
Sorry, Cole.
It's not fucking Van Helsing, one of the worst
He's
movies
saying
I've ever
it's great,
seen.
but Van Helsing sucks.
Okay. Well, it's always a give and take with Cole.
Becca, close the computer screen. Shut him up. Just close the computer screen. Fuck.
Bad action films.
But okay.
Equilibrium, like, basically invented John Wick.
It's kind of proto-Wick.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fine.
It's good.
But Van Helsing is actually a moderate success. Not critically, but commercially. And so Sommers is he's not in, blank check status or anything, But he's in a position where if he wants to do a movie that's already in development, they haven't hired a director, they're going to hire him. He has a decently proven track record.
Do you know why he doesn't do Mummy 3?
Yeah, we talked about it in our episode that we've definitely already recorded.
Okay. Sounds good.
We talked about it in the episode from a few weeks ago, of course.
It's definitely already been released.
Yes, of course.
Do you remember when they almost rebooted Van Helsing with Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Back when Tom Cruise's career was fucking dead.
Imagine that. It's funny that Tom Cruise has almost been in 2 separate Van Helsing projects.
Was he
Yeah.
up for the Summers?
No, because the Dark Universe, had it have continued, the cross
Would have had Van Helsing in it.
Yeah.
one of their ideas was like a Van Helsing crossover with all the mummies teaming up to fight him.
Yeah. That would have been good, man. That would have been so good.
Thinking about all that shit makes my head hurt. I just don't.
You know what makes my head hurt,
What?
Mark?
What?
Thinking about the events of the motion picture G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra.
You love this
thank
movie.
God.
You're
Thank
I
God we
don't.
can get
I don't
back
think
to
this
it.
movie's very good.
It's not good.
It's not.
You just said you like
Right.
this movie.
Jeff,
Yeah.
do you have any more context?
Yes, I have a decent bit more. So,
Stuart visibly
It is
distressed.
40 minutes.
and so
Visibly
40
distressed.
we
minutes.
have an hour and 20 minutes
Yeah,
left.
we got time.
We actually have an hour.
Mark,
and 40
call in sick to work. We're going. We'll go all day.
Just go all day on Rise.
We
of
have
Cobra.
other guests.
I'm gonna
who
call
we
in
have,
sick from this podcast.
we
next
have to
time.
watch a third movie today, Jeff, to cover.
What do you got to record? What do you got to record?
Well, one we can't say.
Yeah, we're also doing Furry Vengeance.
Furry Vengeance.
Do you have to watch that movie?
Okay, I
today?
think
We have
I'm
to
just
watch
saying.
Furry
I think it
Vengeance.
would be funny if you just uploaded a file called Furry Vengeance and wrote
was the
like a
second
fake
half of
description,
G.I.
but it
Joe.
was just the second half of the G.I. Joe.
That actually is pretty funny.
So,
Might actually be down to do that.
so Sommers is locked in. Stuart Beatty's rewriting the script. They then hired a smorgasbord of additional writers for this movie. The idea being the writer's strike is looming in 2007, which is very funny because the day we're filming this, May 1st, 2023, we find out at midnight if there's going to be another writer's strike.
So by the time this episode's been released,
We also find out if we are employed in July or August this year with that
I
decision.
mean, inshallah. Does it feel like, I don't know if you guys remember like the lead up to the last writer's strike, but it really feels like Hollywood is less panicky
yeah.
about
Yeah.
this potential one. Whereas last time, and maybe that's like we're going to find out a lot of stuff in like a year when we realize why every movie coming out feels like half-assed.
Well, the thing,
But-
the big difference in the reaction is that in 2007, I'm just going to quickly say this G.I. Joe context as it explains it. Prior to the writer's strike, they hire like 5 more writers on this movie, including Brian Koppelman, David Levian, John Lee Hancock,
Your favorite director.
and Paul Lovett. They hire like all these additional directors or writers to write different scenes of this movie,
Yeah.
so that they can have a finished script in time before the writer's strike.
And they can't work on it, and it
Yeah.
shoots over the writer's strike,
So,
and it
yeah.
ends production the day before the strike
Yeah.
ends.
So
So
that's-
it goes. No, wait, no. It goes into production the day before the strike ends. It goes into like production, like it starts filming February 11th.
Yeah,
and
they
the
start
strike
filming
ends February 12th. I looked that up.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying is I don't
So they
feel
can
like
work
I'm
on it while
hearing.
the movie's happening, but
Yeah.
they go in probably with a bullshit script.
Yes.
I am not hearing any stories like
That.
we got to hire 10 writers to each write one scene of this
Dude,
movie.
Like now for today, or you're not hearing that
today.
well,
No.
dude. When I saw that Nick Pizzolatto was like hired on to Blade, that felt to me like get somebody who can like get us pages before we start shooting
That's
this summer.
fair. That is
that's
fair.
When,
That
when
is
I
fair.
saw that headline, I was like, that's what that feels like to me.
Well, but see, I guess
like
I just
shell
don't
out
think
some
the Blade
money for
movies-
a name,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
a weird name, a guy who could do it quickly. Yeah, that's what that felt like. to me.
also just some added like modern day context for this writer's strike. I think the biggest thing for why Hollywood isn't as panicky is I don't think a lot of people are expecting this one to last as long as the last one.
Yeah.
Whereas the last one, people were out of work for like a year. So,
Because
but-
it sounds like Netflix is the only company that I've read that is
Yeah,
sort of
well, the
holding out.
last
Everybody's
one-
kind of agreed, and they're kind of just like, we have enough content to like let
Yeah.
this thing go on for however and get what we want. But
I can also say that I distinctly remember when the last one started that people thought it could go much longer than it actually did.
It was over I forgot what the big points of the last strike were.
It ended kind of quick.
It was two
compared to how people were talking about it.
The 2007?
Yeah, like
2007,
there were expectations it was going to last much longer.
Yeah.
And like it was still
much
long.
longer, yeah.
Yeah.
It was long. No, I'm not saying it was short.
Yeah.
I'm saying they thought it could have been
But like
years.
a good modern example is there's a TV show that is on a that's filming in Chicago right now, where they're on like a 2-week hiatus between the first half and the second half of their season.
Because they're filming 2 seasons though.
They're filming 2 seasons at the same time, and they're on a point right now where they're like, yeah, we might come back to work next week, we might not.
What?
They're working on writing the script right now. We'll see if it works out.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Do you guys remember when IATSE like almost went on strike, or maybe did go on strike for a second?
We remember.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But do you remember that sense of like, if the studios don't get their shit together, they could actually lose a full year of programming? That's how people thought of the writer's strike. That like this could go on so long that they could burn through everything they have,
and just like
and not
have
be
an
able
empty
to
period,
and have an empty slate. Which I don't think anyone thinks is going to happen.
It's not the vibe I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But so Stephen Sommers said, had it not been for the rich backstory of the G.I. Joe franchise, the film would have fallen behind and not been able to get into production with the strike. The rich
bullshit
backstory.
artist.
Okay, again, I have to stress this. There is a deeply beloved Marvel comic book from the 1980s.
Yeah.
That is like truly, I've only like read like bits and pieces of it, but that is talked about as like some of the best stuff Marvel was putting out in that era, and that's when the X-Men's at its creative peak.
It's just funny to say.
I know
sentence.
it's funny, but it's not like Transformers here.
Yeah.
Variety reports around this time that the G.I. Joes are an international, like a multinational organization, as they are in the movie, and there's a fan outrage, and Hasbro has to put out a statement on their website saying that they're not going to change at their core what the G.I. Joes
It's
are.
over the acronym of what G.I. Joe stands for in the movie. Do you remember what it is? It's like... no, I'm not. Look it up. One of you context. It's
Joe.
It's a great acronym.
What
they say it in the movie.
does the GI and G.I. Joe stand for?
Oh,
Galvanized iron.
Global Integrated Joint Operating Entity.
There we go. That was worth it, I think. That was worth that pause, I feel like. Yep.
That's a great backronym.
I like galvanized iron better.
Galvanized iron. So Sommers felt 100% of the technology in the film would become available within 10 to 20 years for popular usage.
And he was right.
Yeah.
We have what? We have 7 years. We'll figure it out. 6 years.
The GI in this movie stands for the GI tract, as in the gastrointestinal tract, because it's a load of shit. Thank you.
It's not a load of shit.
Thank you.
So
it just kind of doesn't ever click into feeling like a real movie.
So
it feels like it's constantly on the edge of being a real movie.
So this movie shockingly actually doesn't use much actual military like stuff.
You don't say.
Well, what's so funny about it is that it is sort of in the shadow of the 2007 Transformers, which takes that military so grounded and it's very realistic and it's gritty. And this one is like a parody.
Yeah.
This one is like Team America. It's like, it's
very Team America.
But like unintentionally a parody of Team America.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Sommers, as much as I love his mummy, I don't think he's like necessarily this like he's not a Michael Bay type who's gonna like criticize as he exploits her. He's not gonna make a movie about the military as like a parody,
while somehow getting permission to film on like battleships and aircraft.
That's the Michael Bay magic
and shit like that. Yeah.
Apologies if you were going to get to this, Jeff, but Channing Tatum did not want to do this movie. Because Channing Tatum is very anti-war and was very anti-Iraq War, and felt that didn't want to be a part of a G.I. Joe movie, and he was in fact contractually forced
to do this,
to be in this movie because he owed Paramount a film.
Wow.
What was the Paramount deal he signed? Do you know?
3
He signed like a 3-movie deal, and I think they just hardballed him.
Oh, God.
Like I don't even think he was necessarily like dragging his heels on other stuff. I think he just said no, and they said, well, you don't have a choice because you owe us a movie and we're calling it.
So is him coming back in that one scene in Retaliation? He comes back for one scene in Retaliation at the top of the movie, Jeff, and he blows up. And he dies.
So
is that like
I think I actually they bumped Retaliation for 9 months to do reshoots because it was supposed to come out summer of 2012 and it comes out March of 2013, and they actually bumped it late enough that trailers were like already fairly regularly playing in like I think I saw a trailer for it in front of fucking Avengers. But I will say when he shoots G.I. Joe 2, his career is in the dumps.
Yeah.
So I don't think he has any right to say. I remember the rumor when they pushed that movie being that because 21 Jump Street had just come out, that they wanted to reshoot the movie so he didn't die in the opening scene anymore, which is obviously not what happens. And I kind of now, knowing that he never wanted to be in the first place, actually wonder if he maybe had his agent pull some cards and be like, no, you have to reshoot the movie, so I'm in less of it now. Because he is not in that movie, truly.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's funny he's like third largest on the poster.
Yeah,
that's the joke.
Well, it's because his career had just like exploded again. Like he went from being an also ran to a huge star.
Channing is actually, he will talk about this movie now, and he says he fucking hates this movie because of because of the circumstances, but he says the movie's actually not bad. He enjoys the movie.
He's so cool, man.
I think
He's
that's
so
why he did
cool. I love
Retaliate.
him.
He might have just done Retaliation like, well, I hated the circumstances. Your movie's kind of good. I'll be in one scene.
He's also friendly with John Chu, who directed Retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because Channing Tatum is in Step Up 2.
I thought it was interesting that he does these two sort of like, if Step Up is his career starter, he comes back in the beginning for that one scene, and then this sort of like unintentionally launches him into the mainstream, right? Like I can't think of anything he would have, add to headline this movie.
No.
And then he comes back for John Chu at the beginning of the second one. It was like, yeah, he can't.
It's also worth noting that after Step Up and She's the Man kind of make him this like heartthrob, he very much is like immediately trying to be considered a serious actor. Because this is like the only this is 3 years after those two movies, and I think of this as the only real like big populist choice he makes outside of the one scene in Step Up 2, which is functionally a cameo. But what he does is he makes a guide to recognizing your saints. He makes Battle to Seattle. He makes Stop Loss. He makes Fighting. He makes Public Enemies. Like those are all movies where like he's good in some of them, he's dodgy in others, but those are him trying to be like, I am a serious actor. I am not just a hunky movie star. Take me seriously. So I would also understand him having reticence to do this movie, even divorced from the politics of it. Because it's not the sort of movies he was making.
Yeah.
And
it's funny that like this movie is sort of begging for a funny, likable, charming star.
Yeah.
It's begging for a Brendan Fraser
but
type.
It would have had him 10 years before. It would have had him in
you
that
know
role,
who's a Brendan Fraser type, except better? It's Channing Tatum, guys.
Yeah. He does the, he goes back and he makes a career for himself being the lovable, charming hunk. And
If he gives the like Dennis quadruples in this movie.
What?
Where did that come from? Where did that come from?
Are you having a stroke?
I can't look over at Stuart because he's just banging his head into his microphone.
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
If Channing Tatum gives the White House Down performance in this movie, like this movie is 10% better. Because he can do what this movie wants him to do. He's just being held at gunpoint. And he's fucking asleep.
If you have Mummy era Fraser in this movie, hell, if you just have Fraser like in this movie, same thing.
I mean,
well, not today.
I'm pitching
not
a
modern,
good
not
real
present
actor.
day.
Yeah,
Not-
I'm picturing
not
a
like-
not
good,
present
real,
day
talented
Fraser.
actor.
If you had 99 Fraser, yes, I would agree with you, Jeff, but
The level
not
to which they
2000.
are you,
How
Cole.
old is Fraser at this
He's
time?
38, 39.
Okay, he could do it.
Dude, he's so broken though from the
Well, I mean, aside from that,
well, that's what I mean. Like I would not want him spearheading this movie.
Channing Tatum in White House down fucking dunks on anything Brendan Fraser could ever do in his pathetic life. Fake actor,
shit.
non-serious. Get that shit off my court.
I'm sorry, but for anybody listening
that
here who
shit
thinks
off
that
my
Brendan
court.
Fraser is going to win an Oscar, needs to be in a mental assisted living home, you're out of your mind if you think he's going to win an Oscar. Get out of here.
Why don't you walk us through the plot of this movie?
Can I say that I wrote down one note about this movie?
What's your note?
Why does Snake Eyes have lips?
He has Power Rangers like lips.
it's a little strange.
It's so funny.
There's one other thing. I wanted to say we'll talk about Retaliation at the end, I'm sure. I think it's funny that there are two Brendan Fraser sequels to movies that Brendan Fraser is in, where the lead role is replaced by The Rock.
Yeah.
Because Journey to the
Sure.
Center of the Earth, they make Journey to the Mysterious Island, and The Rock is it replaces
Does he
Fraser.
play
I
the
would not
Brendan
say The
Fraser
Rock
role?
is he playing?
He plays the role, but not the character. Like in Journey to the Center,
No.
he's the kid's dad. He's Josh Hutcherson's uncle.
I don't think
And-
it works for G.I. Joe.
And in Journey 2, he is the other uncle.
I don't remember either.
they should have Brendan
I
Fraser
just-
replace Hobbs in Fast and the Furious. He
Now?
should just,
Yeah, I
he should
take
come back
that.
and play Hobbs. That'd be so fun.
That'd be so good.
G.I. Joe Retaliation is just so interesting because just based on how they cast his kids, a month earlier he had made that movie Snitch,
Yeah.
which is a very good movie in which The Rock is undeniably playing a white man in that movie. And then in G.I. Joe Retaliation, he's undeniably playing a black man. It's like it was such just an interesting, like, we're still in that Hollywood era of like ambiguous ethnicity
Yeah.
going on.
Is Oscar Isaac like kind of an ultimate example of that?
Yeah, but you can't get away with the stuff you could get away with even 10 years ago with him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do it to most of the degree that other people have done. Like, say, Kevin J. O'Connor. But that's
Yeah.
just brown face in The Mummy. Or fucking Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis is like the superhero of that, where he's played every
he's played
race.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
Including a Navi.
Yeah, he played Navi.
Yeah.
He did Navi face.
He's so fucking good in that movie. God. Oh.
All right. So I think we've covered all the context. Are we ready to dive into the plot?
I guess
have
the
such a
other
headache.
thing I want to
I have
say is
such a
just
headache.
that they cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this movie as to kind of soften the blow of Channing Tatum getting forced to be in this movie
Yeah.
because they're really good friends.
Help him out, and they share like
Yeah.
2 scenes together.
Yeah, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll do this movie. I want to wear all that makeup," which is a cool thing to say.
Stuart, how's this movie start?
What?
How does this movie start? How does this movie start? How does this movie start?
15th century torture scene.
Yeah, this movie starts. It says France, 1641.
It's such like a mid 2000s screenwriter thing to be like, let's find the man in the iron mask. He kind of looks like Destro. All right, let's write that. You know, that fucking
Yeah.
sort of like, that peanut brain. Let's just fucking like ground this shit. But it's cool.
It rocks. All just thinking about all the labor that had to go in to this one scene of the movie that doesn't matter because you can't reuse those sets, you can't reuse those costumes, right? Like everything just has to be bespoke for a dumb cold
If
open.
a movie
at this
starts
They
in 15th century France, I'm fucking in.
They make one scene.
Yeah,
I guess it's technically 2 scenes because there's an exterior
Hollywood-
and an interior.
Hollywood used to be cool, man.
Man, Hollywood
used to be cool.
fucking rock, dude.
Because if you saw something like that in a movie now,
2009.
you'd be like, well, the sets and clothes are CGI rendered. Like, you don't give a shit. But you're watching this and you're like, they're throwing around so much fucking money for no good reason.
Stuart is just giving me a death glare across
You know what it is? It's
In
like
a good
big.
way.
It's big, like
It's a
National
cute
Treasure vibes. You know, when those movies sort of start, like where it's like, but those movies connect.
Yes.
Those
But
movies
those
connect.
movies
to story-
connect,
But that's
right?
what's so funny about this opening.
Also, like any given like in the past intro in a National Treasure
Yeah.
movie is clearly done cheaper
Yeah.
than this opening is.
Yeah.
Like this opening looks expensive.
It
That's
looks
the point I'm
expensive,
making.
and
It
it's
looks-
for the backstory of the heavy. You know what I'm saying? It's not even
Yeah.
the big guy. It's because
Which
he's sort of
not just a backstory for the heavy, but a backstory that gets completely reiterated in a later scene in the movie, thus making this scene more unnecessary.
The scene's fully irrelevant to the plot of the movie.
But it looks better than like some of the more money shot scenes in this movie. That's the thing that blows
well,
my
like
mind.
if it didn't have it? What's the scene right after? What would the alternate opening be?
Yeah, it starts with fucking Eccleston.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's a sensible way to open the movie.
no. If you start this movie with him talking about nanobots, like
My shirt is off in the theater. That's what's going on.
With Dennis Quadcopter in the rafters watching.
It basically is just the same opening as X-Men 2000.
Yeah, it is. This
that
movie is
movie-
very X-Men 2000.
Because that movie starts with the Jean Grey like talking in Congress, and then
About
it goes
mutant
to,
rights.
yeah, and then it goes to like the guy Professor X in the rafters.
yeah.
Very similar opening. I do like that it. No, you know what it also does? That's the same as X-Men 2000. When it jumps from France to the Eccleston scene, it goes black and it says "in the not too distant future."
oh yeah.
Next Sunday, AD.
That's the exact same thing.
So cool.
The exact same thing that X-Men 2000 and The Last Stand do is in the not too distant future.
You can't use that phrase, by the way. That phrase is claimed. It has been claimed by the good gentleman over at Mystery Science Theater 3000.
And you know, we're just living in their shadow.
Yeah. I mean, literally, honestly, the four of us, yeah.
We are quite literally.
Stuart is vaping on my
So how we get this? We go from France, 1641.
Jeff, is there ever not construction near your neighborhood?
I think Stuart's actually mostly grumpy about the construction.
I am very
if it's
grumpy
any
about-
consolation, I can't hear anything.
That's good.
So you're probably not picking anything up.
Basically, every time we record, you walk out and it's empty, and then we press the record button, and like 6 trucks pull
All right,
up in
everybody,
my alley.
30 seconds of room tone and quiet.
Actually, Stuart, I think that's just a trash truck.
It's taken a long time.
There's a lot of trash in the alley.
Yeah, I've heard it for the past 40 minutes. Yeah,
Okay, again,
if that's
as
taking
the
40
person
minutes.
as the person who is listening to your feeds and cannot hear things that aren't getting picked up by your mic, the audio it's not picking up.
Okay.
All right, we're living with this. We're just here with it now. It's our friend. So Christopher Eccleston is just like, all right. So talking about nanobots. So we're gonna build nanobots and they'll be able to destroy anything. We're gonna transport them, aren't we, laddie? Groundskeeper Willie. All right, so we're going to transport them using the U.S. military.
The most interesting. He uses NATO first of all.
NATO.
The most interesting part of this movie is when he gives this like horrifying speech about this like weapon of mass destruction he's invented, and then he says you can pick them up on Monday, and he gets a standing ovation.
You can pick them up on Monday. And then,
There is, I think, the thread that this movie like almost grabs a hold of throughout its entire runtime, but never really congeals into anything interesting, is this sense of filming a kid like smashing his action figures together in a way that kind of becomes almost soulless and inhuman and scary
Yes,
in the
yeah.
sheer like war as play of it all.
Yeah.
And while I don't think the movie ever necessarily congeals that point, opening with like this horrific demonstration as a marketing pitch is like an interesting thing to do for a movie about toys.
Yeah. Like if you had like a toy in a box that could like melt. You know what I'm
Yeah, all
saying?
the other
and
toys.
These kids are watching it.
And you
My
start
favorite bit in the movie is where like it's like literally a toy commercial, and it's like there's sort of submarine with the little ships that pop out the side, as if you're just like pressing a little button.
Yeah,
and all the
things
ships
pop
are
out.
coming out. Yeah, no,
One actually fun thing about this movie, I just want to quickly say.
please.
So this
There's
movie,
plenty of fun things.
Yeah,
this movie is edited by Bob Ducey.
yeah.
Who is Stephen Sommers and Ryan Johnson's main editor.
Yeah.
This is also one of the only 3 movies that Bob Ducey has full stop produced. He produced Van Helsing, Mummy 3, and this.
Oof.
Ooh, I'm looking at
And then
this
he goes back
guy's-
to being an editor.
Yeah, I'm looking at this guy's IMDb, and he belongs in jail. I am sorry.
He goes back to editing after those 3 disasters.
Everyone involved in Space Jam 2 belongs in jail.
Oh my god,
sorry.
he is the editor of Space
He
Jam.
is the editor of Space Jam 2.
That movie was cut during COVID. People needed work. All right, I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go.
He edits
Did he need work when he did Rampage?
Godzilla, King of the... He did both Godzillas?
Rampage, big Steven Sommers energy, isn't it?
No, because then
What's
it would
that
be
guy?
better.
Is that guy Brad? What's the guy's name?
Brad
Brad Payton. I'm
Brad
Brad Payton.
Yeah.
I'm a real director.
Has he made a real director poll yet? Has he done like a?
Nope.
I'm doing like a. No. Okay.
You want the Brad Payton filmography?
What's the R.I.P.D. guy who did that very serious, like Nazi movie?
Oh no, that
guy.
guy's just interesting because
The
he will
red
keep
guy.
going. Yeah, the guy who made Red and R.I.P.D. will every so often like go back to Germany and
Yeah.
make like a very serious, austere art film, and then comes to the United States and makes G.I. Joe Origin Snake Eyes, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not even that guy makes real auteur pulls; it's that he's actually the only person doing one for them, one for me.
Yeah.
Brad Payton
Like truly,
is Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore, Journey
Yep.
to the
a
Mysterious
movie
Island.
I saw it. Did not see. No, I saw Kids Nugs one.
Journey to the Mysterious
Yep.
Island.
Yep.
We covered the prequel to that. San Andreas, Incarnate,
Mm-hmm.
Rampage, and he's making a movie right now called Atlas. Starring Jennifer Lopez
I'll watch it.
And Simu Liu.
and Simu Liu. Simu Liu. That's a fun name to say.
Yeah, not a fun actor to watch. Boom. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
He's the least compelling performance in Shang-Chi.
I'm like annoyed that he's in Barbie. Like I just don't want to deal with having
Hot
to watch him
prediction.
in a movie.
Cole's gonna walk away from Barbie, and Simu's gonna take the
Simu-
whole fucking thing. Just watch. It's such a perfect tee up.
Nothing.
It happens all the time. It happens. all
Actually,
the time.
no, I don't think that's going to be the
I think
case
it's gonna
because I
happen.
think
I
no.
vocalized
Mark?
it to you, which is kind of
Mark?
like stacking the odds against myself.
Mark. No, because it's going to happen in Joyride.
Is he enjoying it?
Joyride's going to be the one where he like wins me over.
What are we talking about?
Okay. So the second scene of the movie.
Yeah, here we go.
Christopher Eccleston playing James McCullen. Who's
James
oh my
McCullen.
God, they're like really going out there right
Stuart,
Like a
Jeff
joke
doesn't have a gun in the house. You don't have to.
This is the Don John of Travolting episodes in that it's very normal and organized.
I think if there wasn't construction, Stuart would actually be fine right now. But I think that's the little, like the straw.
I don't know.
camelback
He's
that-
making the face he always makes when I'm on an episode, so I'm not quite sure.
He's finishing it.
I have listened to those episodes and I can hear the face. I can hear it.
Nothing was funnier than the one episode where suddenly the dynamic flipped and Jeff was the one who was pissed off at me.
What episode was that?
Is it Darkly Noon?
I think it was Darkly Noon.
Darkly Noon, I think me and Stuart get into like a serious and impassioned argument about the nature of meaning. And Jeff is like pulling his hair out.
That is true. You're the one that had to like pull us apart. from each other.
Isn't the
Like
meaning
two
of life,
cats in
Jeff,
an
the
alley.
ultimate context corner? Thank you very much.
The ultimate context corner.
So the second scene of this movie.
Yeah. So he's transporting these nanobots using a NATO convoy. Our main 2 guys are in this convoy. Duke, played by Channing Tatum, and Ripcord.
At gunpoint.
At gunpoint. You can actually sometimes see the gun kind of come into frame. And Ripcord, played by Marlon Wayans.
You ready for a fucking heater
Yeah.
of a hot take?
Yeah.
Best performance in the movie.
Marlon Wayans.
I think so.
He's not bad.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt gives the most interesting performance in the movie. But I think Marlon Wayans knows exactly what he's being asked to do, and he fucking delivers. Which is comic relief best friend shit.
Yes. JGL just will always have my like number one vote for this movie.
It's just bad shit, but it almost like destabilizes the movie. It's so bad shit.
Okay, but Sienna Miller?
Terrible.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Does Mark like Sienna Miller?
The thing about Sienna Miller is 99% of the time she's like the worst actor who ever stepped in front of the camera. And then once she gave like one of the most searing performances I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know how it happened.
Which performance is that?
Lost City of Zed.
Lost City of Zed.
A movie that famously ends incredibly, and Mark would not know that.
What?
Mark, do you want to tell him?
You could just tell him. I wasn't there. I didn't even know.
What happened? Did you just leave?
Like 5 minutes before the end of Lost City of Zed, Mark turns to me. He's like, "I gotta go take a shit," and then he gets up and leaves. And then that's the most beautiful ending I've ever seen a movie have.
The Icon Roosevelt, baby.
Have you ever watched it again?
It was a long movie, and I had a lot of popcorn
like
to eat.
2.5 hours long.
Yeah, I know, but I ate the popcorn quickly. It was just sitting the whole time. I ate it before the movie even started.
Oh my God.
That was the problem.
So they're on this convoy transporting the nanobots.
Yeah.
They get attacked by a futuristic robo ship, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very evocative of the opening of Transformers 2007. It's basically the exact same opening.
Down to the sound design too.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
You all can almost hear like the do 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 do.
Yeah. This
The-
is such a beeps and boops movie.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
also
gosh.
weirdly like it's evocative of both Transformers and the opening of Iron Man, where his
It's
convoy
why-
gets attacked.
Yeah.
And so the convoy gets attacked. A lot of guys are killed. Duke and Ripcord are okay.
This is a weirdly violent movie.
Yes, this is very violent.
Yeah.
People just like explode.
Yeah.
Like blood.
People get like graphically stabbed on screen. Like it is one of those things where you really feel the fucking weight of the MCUification of blockbuster cinema.
Yeah.
Only 14 years after this movie comes out, that I'm like shocked by how like bloody, like not even bloody, but like callously violent this movie gets at times.
Yeah. Because we're so used to just like bloodless.
But no,
like,
not even bloodless, just like no sense that anyone ever gets hurt.
There's so many like needles in people in this movie, and like people's like faces melting, and people's
swords
like,
going to
bones
pieces.
reconstructing, and
Incidental characters who exist to die is not something that we have in blockbusters anymore. We don't have extras in action scenes.
That's the thing that's cool about the OG X-Men movies is Wolverine, like when he stabs people, he stabs people.
Yeah.
And like you see like limbs and all that get cut off. Nowadays, like it has to be R-rated, and everyone's like, wow, Logan is so violent.
Gosh.
And I saw this.
Do we think
and then I sit there and I'm like, how is it that I have spent 17 years watching movies with this character that span decades in universe, and he said fuck once, and now he's saying fuck every third word?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Do you guys want to know a secret about Logan?
It's a Western.
No, it's a piece of shit.
I was gonna say it's a Western.
Does he say fucking Logan?
It's subtle, but it is there.
His fucks are subtle.
Yeah. If you don't pay attention, you might miss it.
No, yeah.
I'm so fucking annoyed by the fucking like Chris Pratt says fuck in Guardians 3 press tour.
They're like big news, guys. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. One F-bomb in it.
Wow!
One whole F-bomb that we've already put out there.
Like that would have just been fun if it just happened. But
yeah.
Okay. So this convoy's attacked. Sienna Miller is the main like person. What would you call the leader of the opposition forces?
Well, you might call her some sort of baroness.
Yeah.
Yes. She's playing the Baroness. And
why do they call her that?
Because she's literally a baroness in the movie.
Is she?
Yeah, she's married to a baron.
They come up with this.
There's one line where they acknowledge the fact that her like
right, he's the scientist.
Her French scientist husband is like a baron.
Oh, okay.
They come up with this elaborate backstory because in the comics I'm reading right now, she's just like an offspring of a baron and a baroness, and so she becomes the baroness. In this movie, they have to come up with this elaborate backstory to explain how she can both be Channing Tatum's ex and also a baroness. And it's that she married a baron who is in 2 scenes of this movie. So Duke recognizes her as his ex named Anna.
I mean, it could be worse, right? Like that is kind of sweaty, but honestly, I prefer that sweatiness to me at the end of this movie being like, why is Joseph Gordon-Levitt saying the Cobra will rise? Like, what's going on here, really?
Because he has a Cobra in his office.
I guess. Why does he say you're Destro now? Like, I'm like,
it's
either because he tells him that they called his ancestor Destro.
I guess. Still, it's dumb. I think that the cleanliness of this, if she can't be just a blood aristocrat,
why can't they call him Destro? Your whole thing is that we should just lean into these names. Cole hates,
but if you're
Cole
gonna explain
the
something,
Dr. Stephen Strange,
no, that's
Marvel
what I'm saying.
movies,
that's what I'm saying.
What's your secret superhero name? Cole hates that shit.
I hate that shit. But if you're going to explain it, right? I think this is a very clean explanation for why she's called Baroness. Like it does not bother me.
Yeah.
It's subtle. Because it's so subtle, Mark, that you missed it. Like they don't put any heat on it. They just call that guy Baron like once.
I completely missed it.
Yeah,
but I didn't even think about it once because I was enjoying watching this movie so much.
That's insane.
It's kind of
no, I don't like.
Vegetable.
I don't like this movie. It made me feel like a vegetable. I feel like a vegetable right now.
This movie makes me forget how to swallow.
Stuart, how'd this movie make you feel?
Huh?
How'd this movie make you feel?
What was your impression of it? What are your thoughts?
This movie made me feel brain dead.
Do you like the cinematography?
I got a text last night.
Mark, do you like the cinematography?
I think this movie looks better than movies look now.
I think so too. The compositing is often very dodgy.
Oh, all the stuff when they're in their little secret base is so bad.
Yeah.
But the actual like real light on real costumes and all the ways it plays with like color gels,
all the physics of their little like sonic guns, like pushing shit that actually feels sort of tangible.
Have we commented on the really bad CGI of this movie?
We just did. We literally just did.
All right. So
what's the bad? Is it just all of it for you?
Yeah.
I got a text at 5:30 last night. I may have just watched the 2 most infuriating movies I've ever watched. G.I. Joe being one of them, and I said
Logan was the other one,
and I responded G.I. Joe kind of good though, and he responds
G.I. Joe more like the rise of the good movie.
Mark,
and he responds no, it isn't. Do not even try and humor it into a good movie. It's bad, Jeff, really bad.
How many times does Jeff like come into like the like to record Stuart, and he just goes, "Oh, we just watched Dudley Do Right," more like Dudley the Good Movie.
Dudley Do Good movie.
Dudley Do Good movie.
Every fucking bad movie, Mark.
Dudley Do Right is one of the great American films.
Dudley Do Right, a very good episode.
George of the Jungle is an unwatchable piece of shit, but Dudley Do Right is kind of a masterpiece.
Jeff will just be like, I finally got around to watching that movie from last year called Nope, more like The Good Movie.
Mark, can I just say something?
What?
If I had not been keeping it a secret from you that I was on this episode, I would have walked up to you on your wedding day and been like, I got $10 that says that Jeff says G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is a good movie. the least surprising thing I've ever heard anyone say.
I gave this a 3 out of 5. It's not like a great movie.
I know.
But this is kind of like, all right. I'm kind of having a good time.
Outside of my broader sense that I like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt performance, and I like the Marlon Wayans performance, there are like 2 scenes in this movie that I fully love, and then the rest of the movie is just like an incomprehensible wash of very pretty colors. And so like I am sympathetic to a argument that it's good. I just think it's so inane that I can't fully endorse it.
So they get rescued. The convoy gets rescued, and the nanobots are saved by Scarlet. Who the fuck plays Scarlet?
It's
Rachel Nichols.
Rachel Nichols.
The most insane performance in this movie.
Very weird.
Yeah, her whole bit with Marlon Wayans is very odd. Scarlett played by Rachel Nichols. Snake Eyes played by Ray Park, a guy who's notoriously chill.
Is Ray Park not chill?
Ray Park is notoriously not chill.
Is he? Oh, good
Bad
to know.
guy, no good. More like bad guy.
Ray Park, known at this point for playing Darth Maul and then Toad.
And
who else had he played?
it's that he has that one insane 18 months where he's Darth Maul, the Headless Horseman in Sleepy Hollow, and then Toad in X-Men.
That's good.
So, here, I'm finding
Is he in Retaliation too? Is he Snake Eyes in Retaliation?
Yes, he also plays Snake Eyes in Retaliation.
So he randomly just posted a video on Instagram of his wife giving him oral sex.
Oh, so he's cool.
Shut up! No, it gets bad.
And it's just gets into a fight, a public fight with his wife on Instagram.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not sticking up for the guy.
For Ray Park section.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically all I have to say about Ray Park, except that he's good at doing flips.
Okay, never mind.
And he has lips in this movie, and it never doesn't distract me.
He's good at doing flips, and he's bad at doing lips.
Yeah. I will say this. He gives the second best performance as Snake Eyes in the motion picture G.I. Joe, The Rise of COBRA.
Who's the first best performance?
Leo Howard, who plays young Snake Eyes.
Young Snake Eyes. So the G.I. Joes rescue Duke and Ripcord, Baroness and...
We've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes, and we just got to the rescue scene.
Baroness and... what's his name?
Stuart, at least I'm letting you guys go through the plot chronologically, and I haven't talked about stuff that happens in the end yet.
Oh, I was about to do that just to get to the end. And then JGL puts on a bigger mask. He has a lower voice, and then that's
okay.
the end of the movie.
So they go to the...
you can find us at Volting Pod and Instagram.
They go to the G.I. Joe's headquarters.
Twitter.
And I am very disappointed by this scene.
Email us to voltingpod@gmail.com.
Tell me why.
They're flying in their little ship, and they fly over the pyramids. Clearly just Sommers like the pyramids. He likes the mummy. And I'm like, oh, fuck. They're going to fly into the pyramid, and the pyramid's the base. I was like, yeah! And then they fly past the pyramid and just find a hole in the ground and go into it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You've already shot the shot of the pyramids. Just CGI a little door opening in the side of the pyramid and they go in.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for your loss.
How do you miss that? That's
I'm
so
very
obvious.
sorry for your loss.
It's so obvious. It's the Team America thing where they fly into Mount Rushmore. God. So,
should we take a moment of silence? Just to honor the fact that they could have done that and they didn't.
Yeah, we're taking a moment of silence for the fact that the Joe's base is not in the Great Pyramid of Giza.
It's such a Team America joke.
It's
Isn't
so
it?
obvious.
No, but it's like, oh, we're going to the pyramid, and then they fly past the pyramid, but then in Team America they would keep going for a good minute, and then they'd get to some office building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like a hole in the ground called the Pit.
It's the Pit.
They rendezvous with the leader of G.I. Joe.
I will say though, Jeff, this is one of those things that I think about a lot vis-a-vis how fandom has flipped, where this is still the era when grown men are going to piss their pants if they change canon to that degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, where they're like, oh my God.
Whereas nowadays it feels like no one cares about pre-existing canon at all.
So they go in the pyramid and then it lowers in.
I get the point you're making.
It's a bit underneath the pyramid.
No.
I feel like
I get it. I understand.
From the cartoon show, is the Pit on a mountain? I feel like it's on a big mountain.
I'm looking up.
I feel like I
like a
want to
mountain
see the
base.
pyramid open like a Venus flytrap.
Yes.
Right? Fully full out. Stuart, you need to weigh in. What do you want us to
Do you
do?
remember Stuart's energy on like when we did a Ladder 49? I would pay him $20 right now to have Ladder 49 Stuart back. And I feel like
Ladder 49
feel
Stuart
like,
was really angry at me specifically.
No, but we had like a moment there and with him, and then I feel like we ruined it. We ruined it because we just took it too far.
No, Stuart just hates
episode?
me in particular.
No, with Ladder 49.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. So in
So
G.I.
the
Joe,
third
the
scene
pit,
of this movie.
Okay. So in G.I. Joe, the traditional thing, the pit is below like a farmhouse.
There must be listeners of this show who just think that like Stuart is doing like such a high degree level of a bit, like a Tim Heidecker, where his whole thing is like, I just sit here, and every 15 minutes I just go. There should be a
Producer
video
Stu on the ones and twos.
There should be a video element to this podcast. You guys should start recording them. I'm serious. I really think.
You think it would make it?
Yeah. 2-camera setup. Yeah, I'm serious.
You know what would need to happen to make that happen? We need to start making money off this podcast. And I have to be paid. I already don't get paid enough.
I just
to
said
do
I'd
this
pay you
podcast.
$20.
You pay to what? An hour? A day? An episode? What's the rate?
Mark, he'd have to edit video feeds and audio.
Yeah,
right? Like you'd have to do two separate edits.
Mark, I am the sole technical producer of this entire show.
I make the videos.
So you should pay him like $22.
Yeah, you drag and drop a PNG file into an Adobe
This is the
timeline
shit I'm here for.
and
This is
line
what I
up the
want.
audio,
Behind the scenes
render
drama,
it,
guys.
export it, and then plop. I give you the descriptions, bitch. You don't even make the description.
You got the descriptions,
I copy and
bitch.
paste the descriptions. Where do you get the audio? On the fucking Google Drive.
I knew this
that
episode
I
would do
copy and
this to
paste
us.
it on.
I knew Rise
So
of
don't
Cobra
tell
would
me
do it.
that
This is the
I
real
make
Rise
the
of Cobra right
videos.
here. Here
Okay,
he fucking is.
Stuart, it's not that hard to press an on button on your recorder, okay?
Fuck. All right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out.
Yeah, go.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Stuart, come back. You have to watch Furry Vengeance.
Is anyone still listening to this episode?
Jeff,
at this
what do you
point?
think about the Brie Larson performance of Don John?
Like, maybe the second best performance in the movie.
Is she his sister?
See, I think it's so annoying. I think the whole shtick is annoying. I don't like it.
I think it's telling that she has one line in the movie, but it's really well delivered.
Is she just
But
his
it's
sister who
no,
sits at
because
the
it's
table?
supposed to be the Silent Bob thing, and I don't think you care.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Can we hear the door creaking and slamming?
Yes.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gonna come back with like McDonald's or something. No.
Wait,
so-
where are we?
Is this the best episode of the show?
Is anyone still listening at this point?
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to the
All right,
whole
guys.
thing.
If you're watching on YouTube, comment below. I'm still listening. If you
Yeah,
are.
I'll give you $20. Yeah.
Okay.
Do
So
we actually want to go through the plot? Because we have an hour left.
I think we can do this.
Okay.
Yeah,
we can do
knock it
this.
out. I want to get to the accelerator suits
Yeah.
quickly.
So they
I
meet
want
up,
to get to the two scenes in this movie I like.
they meet up
That's all I
with
care
Dennis
about.
Quaid as General Hawk.
Second worst performance in the movie.
He's so tame. Like, what's going on?
Checked the fuck out.
I actually thought he died in that base attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he died, and there was like no sort of like big like.
I remember he was a big part of the trailers for this movie, and yet oddly,
I'm disappointed, Stuart. I'm disappointed. I had you at 5 minutes.
it's cold outside.
It's cold outside.
So Dennis Quaid, he's like a big part of the trailers of this movie, but he's just like kind of there, like in most scenes.
Yeah.
So he takes the nanobot warheads,
Yeah.
and they take possession of them, and Duke is like, we should join G.I. Joe. And he's like, why you want to join G.I. Joe? That's my best Quaid in this movie. He's really gravelly in this.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you want to join G.I. Joe? All right, we're gonna train you.
I love how like intentionally shitty the hologram effect is.
Yeah.
When he talks to them on a hologram earlier, that he's in 2D, and whenever it cuts to a bad angle of that 2D, you like see how like awkward
Yeah.
the tech is. But that's like not an accident, because they have to have like in real life rendered the shitty weird perspectives. Yeah.
It's a cool effect instead of doing like a full 3D hologram.
Yeah.
And I like around this scene is when we're reintroduced to the Christopher Eccleston McCullen character.
Yeah.
Who's appearing as a hologram in the base.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the scene in the submarine where I'm like, everyone's a fucking hologram. I have no idea.
And he's talking with them, and he's just like, "So you've got it in the pit? All right, I'll come and check it out later."
I was really shocked.
Jeff,
to
can
see
you do
that
me
he
a
was,
favor?
what?
Yeah.
What's the episode you're recording after this? Is it Furry Vengeance?
Yeah.
Can you just do the entire Furry Vengeance in your Scottish accent?
What if I do Free Vengeance in the Scottish accent? So we cut away from McCullen as a hologram in the base, and we're on a submarine.
Yeah.
And he's on the submarine. He turns around. The Baroness is there.
It's a big reveal.
Whoa, McCullen, bad guy, traitor. And he's like, "All right, so you're gonna get it back. It's in the pit. I can give you the access." And then it turns out she's a hologram.
She's a hologram.
And then he turns to another guy, Storm Shadow, who we're just meeting now.
He's going to get the job done.
Yeah, played by Saeed Tagmui.
No, Saeed Tagmui plays
I'm sorry.
Breaker.
Yeah.
Storm Shadow is played by Lee Byung-hun,
Yeah,
who
Lee
is like
Byung-hun.
one of the great Korean movie stars.
Yeah,
Like
I've seen him
a
around.
truly iconic actor.
He looks cool as shit in this movie.
Yes.
In the third act.
Yeah.
With his shirt off.
And he's like,
Phenomenal.
I'll get it back.
Yeah.
And then he also disappears.
He disappears too.
He's a fucking icon. Nothing to do in this movie.
Yes. He gets like one good scene.
Yeah.
And it's his death scene.
I never watched Squid Game, but he was on Squid Game.
Okay, I didn't watch Squid Game.
I
either.
did, and now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember who he is.
So
I like phone watched that movie. I was like on my phone the whole time.
The television show.
Yeah.
I think he's like the overseer of the games or something. I don't think he has a very big role on it.
He might be behind a mask that whole.
I mean,
that whole
maybe,
show.
maybe.
I
I
think
don't
he
think
is.
I would assume you would cast him in a small role to like be the big star. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah. So McCullen then goes to his underground base, or his underwater base. It's like this big base under the Arctic. And we meet up with Emotep.
Oh yeah.
Arnold Vosloo from The Mummies playing Zartan.
Zartan.
Zartan like must be a big character.
Oh
from-
God, that is him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Is Zartan like a shapeshifter in the comics? You probably don't know, Cole. 'Cause you
He's
didn't
one of the
read
main-
I think he is a shapeshifter. No, he's a master of disguise.
Yeah,
Okay.
master of
He's like a
disguise.
chameleon.
He's a master of disguise, but I think he does have natural like skin tone shifting abilities.
So he doesn't do like masks.
No, I think he does masks,
Oh.
but he also can like alter his skin tone. So he's like 50-50.
Okay. So
Vuz-
sometimes he needs the mask. Sometimes he can just get away with
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Vuzu's also one of the few guys who comes back for
That's
the sequel
interesting.
from this movie.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Why wouldn't? Yeah.
Because the sequel is like such kind of a soft reboot
Yeah.
of this movie.
The actors who come back for the sequel are Channing Tatum for a brief bit, Vosloo as Zartan, Jonathan Pryce as
Yeah.
the president of the
Uh-huh.
United States.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the sequel is that so many like failed franchise starters of this era have those like tacky sequel hooks.
yeah.
And this one, when they did the sequel that was like a soft reboot, they are actively picking up on the big sequel hook from the end of this movie.
Yes. It's the
Yeah.
it's like
Which
the one,
is like the only interesting thing about the sequel is that they do that. And that Willis is in it.
yes.
You know who Willis plays in the
Plays
sequel?
G.I. Joe.
He plays G.I. Joe.
Just
He
like
plays the G.I. Joe.
So, I like how
the training montage. Let's just get to
Yeah,
the
there's a training
Yeah,
montage.
let's just get there. We need that right now, I think.
Boring.
I do like how the
Just because it's the Fraser scene.
the
too,
plot
and
the
it's
plot
close.
description for this
Boo.
movie does this entire next action scene is just saying Storm Shadow and the Baroness retrieve the warheads. So there's the big training montage. I'm looking at my notes see if I wrote anything interesting about this scene. No, I did not.
Sucks and it's boring.
So it's a training montage. It's
Get it on.
Get it on. Get it
Yeah,
on.
It's a cover of Bang On. The thing
It's
that's
such a weird
interesting
cover.
about the training montage is that like immediately after the training montage, we get the primary romance in this movie is between Ripcord and Scarlet,
Yes.
which is interesting for two reasons. Well, it's interesting for three reasons. The first reason is that it's an interracial romance, which is still, I think, rare, even as late as 2009.
Yeah.
The second is it's not Channing, right? It's not the star of the movie.
It's this comedic sidekick.
It's the comedic side character. And the third one is 30 minutes into the movie, after the training montage, she has been in most scenes of the movie at this point. All of a sudden, Scarlet is like reframed to be this like weird super genius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? It's not a plot point, and then she's on a treadmill and someone says something about her being really smart, and she fucking pulls out a physics textbook and starts reading it on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And from here on, all her dialogue is like, well, that's not based in scientific behavior, so blah 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 blah. Like she only talks like that.
Well, it goes back to
30 minutes into the
what I said in the context. This movie is written by multiple people who
I
do
know.
different scenes.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yes.
there's like two of the writers who are like under the impression Scarlett's a super genius. The third guy is not getting that information.
Her thing is also that she doesn't believe in love because emotions aren't scientific, and she only believes in things that are scientifically proven, which is like not how emotions work, because there is a
Anne
scientific
Hathaway
basis.
storming into this movie. Just love is quantifiable.
Cole hates that fucking movie.
It's not a good
It's a
movie.
great fucking movie. I've never done a harder turn on a movie. That might be the hardest turn I've ever done on a movie.
It's a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
If we ever cover it on my show, Mark, I'll give you first dibs on it.
Are you doing
Please,
it? Are you doing a
please.
reconnaissance show?
Maybe.
No, you wouldn't do No, you would do Hathaway.
I-
You would do Hathaway.
I'm not saying.
No, you wouldn't
I
do-
am just
no.
saying that there is someone we have talked about covering maybe a few years in the future who would necessitate
You'd
an
never,
Interstellar
You'd
episode.
never do Chastain. Anyway, not important, but like,
It's
yeah.
Chalamet. It's when we do the Shalapa.
Oh,
I was gonna say
sure.
Damon.
No, I can't see Cole doing that. I can't see Cole doing Damon. No. Just a bunch of guys talking about actors on microphones.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are
I
we
think
doing,
Mark
guys?
is starting to lose.
No,
Cole, it
guys.
might just be you and me by the end of
What are we
this.
doing, man? What the fuck is going on?
So
Is he not
It's so
coming
funny.
back, actually?
It's so funny because like the three of us talk all the time,
yeah,
and we can just there is an infinite amount of things we can talk about. But you give
We're
us
talking
one
about G.I.
specific
Joe.
weird movie, and I'm just like tripping over myself to say anything
yeah.
about
It's
it.
because the movie turns your brain into a marble.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
it's
that's the-
sensory
it's-
overload.
There's something about it that it's just impossible to like think about.
I forget how to talk about movies. I really do.
Yeah.
I do.
We had an incredible conversation about SWAT, a significantly worse movie than this. Jeff, we had
You
a
don't
great
get to do
conversation about
self-promo
Paradise
of your fucking
City.
show on Jeff's fucking show. I'm sorry, all right? Okay,
Jeff, we
save
had a
it.
great
Save it for the
conversation
end.
about Paradise City, right? Like,
Yeah. Is it the foursome that's doing it?
I don't know. I think it's just this movie.
Can we talk about the accelerator suits?
We'll get to these
Sure.
suits real quick.
It's a dumb bit.
It's a dumb
So-
bit. I have to imagine those are brand new for the movie.
Yeah.
Right? 100%.
Yeah.
Very much off of Transformers. Very much off of. My thing is that I don't know if it's off Iron Man because it's so close.
It's very Iron
You know?
Man.
I think maybe they don't fly because Iron Man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no reason those things shouldn't be flying.
Instead, they just run fast.
They just run really fast.
Which I like the effect of
yeah.
the running fast.
Yeah. It's a good.
the.
It just never
It's
pays
kinda,
off.
It never pays off, but it is sort of like that's new. You know?
Well,
yeah.
they use those in the training montage.
Yeah.
And when they put them on, that's when we're introduced to a small little like mongoose style ATV thing that rides up, and then Brendan Fraser gets off. He goes, "Hey Joes."
Oh.
That's all he says, right? Is, "Hey Joes." And he's like, "Let's train."
Let's try.
And he just watches as Snake Eyes and Duke duel
Yeah.
for like 2 minutes.
No,
and then he's like,
yeah,
"All right,
cool.
Joes." And then he gets in back on his thing and drives out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's a very weird
Like
cameo.
basically every Brendan Fraser on-screen appearance. It is deeply underwhelming, and you're left confused by why he was ever put in the movie.
You loved him in Darkly Noon.
That's the good one. There's a reason I wanted to be on that one and nothing else, because that's the good one.
Yeah.
But then he zips out of there.
Yeah. I think Cole. Yeah. I came on saying like, look, I think this movie is interesting if it leans into. It's so held back by like Channing Tatum taking this movie very seriously and being asleep. You know what I'm saying? And like hating being in it. But at least Brendan would enjoy being in it. 10 years earlier, this movie was made in 1999. The tone of, and I know Cole would think the movie would be worse if he's in it. You know, if he's playing the sort of like if he's playing like Rick McConnell, you know, in sort of this movie. Yeah. But
if I can drop kayfabe for a second.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I actually think Brendan Fraser would be too earnest. Mm-hmm. I think if this movie works, it needs to kick more into the like almost inhumanly strange and nihilistic,
because this
edge that this movie kind of does walk.
This Duke is like, his weird thing is he's very engaged in the plot of this movie. Yeah, he wants to be there, and I think Brendan would play a guy who like thinks he's too cool for it, or like, you know, would have his own.
You are just describing Dwayne. You realize that, right?
In general, or in the next one?
I mean, both.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of asking for more of a Luke Hobbs energy. And you know what I never want?
No.
A Luke Hobbs energy.
Remember when Hobbs was like kind of a fresh addition to those movies?
He was such a fresh addition.
And he's still fresh in the seventh one, I feel like. I feel like his stuff in the seventh one, he does it good 3 times. And then it feels like the worst thing ever.
Here's the problem with Hobbs. Is Hobbs comes in as such a fresh addition in 5, and like I still think he kind of keeps it going through 7, though it's lesser returns, right? Like he's worse in 6, and then he's additionally worse in 7, right? He's fine in 7, but you're going downhill. Sure. Part of what happens is something about Hobbs being in those movies means that Vin needs to like turn Dom into this more Hobbs-like figure. Yeah. And that destabilizes everything. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's not even in 5. It starts in 6. In 6, Dom starts acting more like Hobbs. And that kind of ruins Dom as a character.
Once Dom drops at his core that he's like a criminal with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
It just kind of becomes like a
and that's what hurts these movies, honestly, is that they've lost the thread of Dom. That they lost Brian. Like Brian Brian. They fucking should have stopped after 7. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
they should have stopped after 7.
7 was a perfect finale.
Yeah. There's stuff in 9 that I find like incredibly beautiful.
No, I agree. Yeah, but
I told Mark that I don't like the fucking magnet car stuff in 9, and he like lost his shit. And I'm like, no, it's bad, and you know it's bad.
I love the telekinetic cars in 9. They're cool. So fun.
They're cool.
You know what I love in 9?
There's a dial, Cole, and the dial.
I know there's a
pulls
dial.
The car towards you.
Is there a dial
if you
of
turn
destiny?
it left, and if you turn it right, it throws the car away from you.
You guys.
I might be fucking G.I. Joe brained right now, but that's so fucking simple and clean to me. I love it so much.
I want something different out of the Fast and Furious movies. Sure. If you told me the next Fast and Furious movie had no action scenes, I would be fine as long as the stuff that you put in the actionless Fast and Furious movie is on the level of fucking Ludacris and Tyrese in space talking about how they're just 2 guys from the hood and they never should have gotten this far. That's what I want out of a Fast and Furious movie. Is like the poetic beauty of it all. I don't give a shit about the action. The action's normally bad. I like the fucking zen, this was my Mexico shit in those movies.
Yeah.
That's why the first one's so good.
Do you like the race car stuff at the top of 9? Like all the weird flashbacky stuff. It is
no, I love the flashback.
Yeah, that's
stuff.
the best stuff of that movie. I feel
the flashback stuff in that movie is incredible.
Is great. Yeah, it's all
that's the tone I want, and I like the space stuff in that movie because that's the only other stuff in that movie that locks into that Tokyo Drift energy.
But I like that about 9 is that it tries to, I feel like when Hobbs came in, it became
Yes.
Fuck, I'm going to sound so wacky here, but it does pull him away from Brian.
Yeah.
And it pulls him away from sort of the family element in
Yep.
6 and somehow lands it in 7. But in 8, it's completely... 8 is nothing.
There's no family.
It's because Brian's gone. It's because Brian's gone.
But then recentering it around his brother in the 9th one is such a smart
But
move. Even though it is...
I think it's notable that all the stuff in 9 that works, even when it involves Dom, doesn't involve Vin, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to recast Dom to get good Dom stuff in
you're right.
F9.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fast X, I'm a little worried.
I'm so terrified.
I'm a little worried.
Yeah. I hope Justin Lin gets to make a real movie again. Make Tokyo Drift 2 with old Lucas Black. I don't care. Because I know it would be a real movie is the thing.
Remember when he was going to do the toy race car movie, whatever it's called?
That would have been fun.
Hot Wheels.
I wish he was doing Gran Turismo instead of Blomkamp, even though I think that movie looks really good.
Yeah.
I just think it would be better if Lin was there. He should have made. All right, here's what I'm going to say, Mark. You're not going to like this, but look into your heart, and you'll know I'm right. Justin Lin should have made Ford versus Ferrari.
No, hell yeah. No, I'm there with you. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, you get, and that's he loves. I think he would really lean into like the older, like the limitations of cars. You know what I'm saying? He seems like the kind of guy who would care about that kind of shit.
So
yeah.
Can I just propose something, Jeff? And I'm not the host of the show, so we don't have to do this, but I just want to propose something.
Yeah.
At the pace we're going, we're not going to get through everything in this movie.
I can get us through it.
What if I time you? What if I time you? Can you do it in a minute?
Well, we're gonna have to sidebar to talk about JG when we get to it.
Well, because that's what I'm saying is there's stuff in this movie I want to talk about and that we are like hours away from getting to.
I can get us through all the nonsense really quick.
And how long? I do want to challenge you.
All right.
I want to put some stakes.
Give me a time.
So we can't cut in. We got to just let you finish the plot.
Yeah, you want me to do the whole plot of this movie?
Can you do it in 45 seconds?
I can do it in 45 seconds.
Ready? And go.
All right. So the Baroness and Storm Shadow come and they steal the nanobots. General Hawk is injured. They then track them to Paris. The Joes go. They intercept them in a cool chase scene. The Eiffel Tower is destroyed. It's tragic.
That's 45 minutes, Mark.
But they managed to save the rest of Paris.
And you have 29 seconds.
Okay, and they save the rest of Paris. Duke is captured. He's taken to McCullen's base under the Arctic. They go to the Arctic. This is where Duke meets the Doctor, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He discovers that he is his old squad mate, Rex, who is a military doctor. Rex got turned into this creature during a bombing strike that Duke called in. The Joes all attack the base. The Doctor manages to escape with McCullen, whose face gets melted into a mask named Destro for some reason. Duke breaks Anna's conditioning and then turns the Baroness good. They escape, capture Rex, who is Cobra Commander now, and the movie ends with Zartan revealed to be the President of the United States.
Yeah, there we go. Great.
I saw this movie at a friend's house in like the first half of a double feature with Whip It in like January of 2010. I did not see this in theaters.
Was it a sleepover?
No.
Damn.
I was like
sleepover double feature.
6. How old? I was 17 and I was not crashing at her house. Also, it wasn't. No. Anyway, we could not get over the fucking fact that they just fucking ether the Eiffel Tower in this movie. We thought it was the funniest shit in the world that Paris just gets fucking destroyed.
Is that one of your scenes or no?
No, I just think it's funny.
What are your scenes?
No, it's
Do you want me to tell you that there are 2 scenes in this movie that are burned into my memory.
Yes.
Right? I saw this movie once almost 14 years ago, and I truly think about these 2 scenes probably once every other week. They captivate me. I think they are miles above everything in this movie.
Yes, hit me with it.
And watching them this time around, I was like, just like waiting for these 2 things to happen, and they totally pay off. The first is the Snake Eyes origin story in which 2 children fucking beat the ever-loving dog shit out of each other in a kitchen.
Yes.
The most insane scene in this movie, right? Every so often, it will cut to flashbacks explaining the relationship between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
It's funny they're
and
the only ones who
first
get
one
that
of them,
device.
It's the most
is like
engaging action set piece of the movie as well. I'd
Yeah,
argue.
it is like a 10-year-old Snake Eyes is like an orphan, like urchin, breaks into a kitchen to try to steal some food. 10-year-old Storm Shadow finds him, and there's like this incredibly brutal like martial arts fight scene with these two kids just throwing each other around a kitchen. It's such a weird thing to happen in the middle of this movie.
I love the design of them too. I love that he's like sort of like a street urchin in black, the Snake Eyes character, and the Storm Shadow guy's like fresh from fucking Taekwondo practice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, the ethics of having this in your movie are kind of fucked. But it's also just a crazy thing to put in the movie. And I kind of, again, it's that more sadistic, nihilistic energy that I want this movie to have throughout. It's probably the best scene in the movie. If you think I wasn't thinking about that every week of my life, Mark, you're crazy. You know me.
The whole Storm Shadow Snake Eyes business is fun. How Snake Eyes like swore a vow of silence because Storm Shadow killed their master back in the day, and now they work for
so melodramatic
organizations.
Yeah, you want it to actually pay off in the movie proper,
and it only does in a fight at the end that like there's no real
isn't very good. Isn't very good.
But yeah, the Eiffel Tower does just get decked.
Fucking ethered in this movie. It's insane.
They destroy the Eiffel Tower and like a little bit else of Paris, but that's it. Just the Eiffel Tower.
What's the other scene?
Okay. Just bear with me here, okay?
Yes.
At the end of the movie, they launch the missiles, right? Like COBRA uses the first missile to destroy the Eiffel Tower as like a show of force. But then they keep the other missiles like locked in their base to like fire them off at cities. And when the Joes attack
yet?
Yeah,
what?
Is Ripcord in the jet yet?
No, this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Ripcord gets in the jet to go shoot down these missiles. And he has a moment with Scarlet that I'm obsessed with. Because you think it's gonna be their like big declaration of love, right?
Yeah.
And it is, but all that it is that she like stops him, she leans over and like kisses him gently. She says, "Good luck." He says, "Make sure you save Duke." And then he's just gone. I swear to God, I think it's the better version of the "I love you, I know" stuff from Empire Strikes Back. There is, I find, because no. For once in this movie, this movie kind of gets to a truth of these people being like action heroes, superheroes, which is that they're not going to say anything poignant in that moment, right? They don't have time to say anything poignant. They need to stay focused on the mission. And the fact that the movie has the balls to have this be the big romantic payoff, I find beautiful. And I think both actors sell it so
and that he's
well.
focused on saving his boy.
Genius.
You could never have thought about that scene or remember it, or you could think the opposite and Cole will still sell you on it. It's true.
No. That's what I'm saying. I think about this scene all the time. I think it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking. Yeah. I love it. It's just that it comes out of nowhere because every other scene between the two of them, they have like no chemistry whatsoever. And this scene fucking whips. What did you write down?
Just do it.
In my notes, I forgot I wrote this in my notes. I just wrote, "Ha ha, Paris is destroyed." I watched this movie like a week ago, so
I watched this movie yesterday. Can I say this, guys? Yeah. I watched that Scarlet Ripcord scene like right before I hopped on mic, and I was like, "Oh, it's so fucking good! It's so fucking good!" Like I just pulled it up on YouTube and I watched it again. It rules.
Oh my god!
Well, I think he's a competent studio guy.
Yeah, Sommers. No.
Yeah, it's interesting.
He made essentially one masterpiece.
He does this. Does he not make a movie after this again?
He makes Odd
Thomas, which is a fucking disaster.
I've seen Odd Thomas. It's really bad. It's weird.
Terrible. And it like the thing that extra sucks about Odd Thomas is it one of Yelchin's last leading roles, and it's like career worst performance from him.
Yeah. Does he?
Yeah, that movie's awful.
Jeff, do you have any idea what he's doing now?
Sommers.
Yeah.
God, I don't know if he's. I
think he's de facto retired.
I think the only thing that gets Sommers back at this point is if post Oscar win, Universal comes out tomorrow and says,
Yeah.
hey, Mummy 4, Brendan Fraser, Rachel
Oh
Weisz.
God! Do not put that evil out in the world. Do not say like a sequel Mummy movie.
I was trying to find like what some like
I am
shit.
I am like 60% sure that that's going to get announced.
some things he was attached to.
And I think that's the Sommers. If Sommers
Yeah.
wants to come back, that's the comeback.
his golden period, he was going to do a Tarzan. He was shopping around, which seems like obvious after his sort of run. He was attached he was attached to Night at the Museum originally.
That makes sense,
He was
right?
gonna
That's
do
good.
He was going to do a Flash Gordon. Kind of interesting. He didn't do a space thing, you know.
Here's
I
the
could see
thing
him
about
doing like a
Stephen
very
Sommers.
big sort of like King Arthur movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If he did like a King Arthur,
Here's
like
the
a-
thing about Stephen Sommers, is even at his best, he's bad Joe Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And I think like if Joe Johnson is struggling to get work,
yeah.
Stephen Sommers is going to be extra struggling to get work.
Yeah. He reminds me a little bit too of the Waterworld guy. The guy who did like Kevin Costner's guy who did like Prince of Thieves and stuff like that. These guys who just do like a round of like 6 years of like big blockbusters and then
Yeah.
yeah.
The Brendan Fraser as old Rick O'Connell in a Lego sequel Mummy movie that sucks would be the funniest payoff to this fake comeback he's having.
No, but you know it's not going to be that. It's going to be a Peacock streaming show or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it would be. It wouldn't be a big movie.
I'll bet money that they're going to do
It's I said this to you, Jeff, but I'm going to say this on mic. The funniest thing in the world is that the first piece of career news to come after Brendan Fraser's fraudulent Oscar win is that he gets cut out of the most anticipated movie of the year.
Yeah.
Like that's the level of this comeback, actually.
Who do you have on that episode? You have to tell them they can't do it anymore. Oh God.
Me.
Yeah, that sucks.
I booked that episode, and the second that news came out, I was like, "We're not doing that if he's not fucking
still
in it."
getting released, and you're not doing an episode, but we're doing a Batgirl episode.
We are doing a Batgirl episode.
Cut that, Stuart. Cut that.
You can cut that out. Yeah.
Stuart, edit point. An hour and 58 minutes in.
Okay.
Gang, did you address this? Did you address this on mic? Gang, Stuart like walked away 30 minutes ago.
But the funny thing is like Stuart's energy is like he could have come back and been sitting there and they wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that back up. It's just good to have for context too.
No,
yeah.
he's still present.
Are we gonna do a John Cast now?
Yeah. So
Someone needs to do the incredibly difficult job of turning off the recorder at the end. Like we're fucked if he doesn't come back.
so
happy he's not here right now for that shit.
So the big I want to talk about the doctor performance, JGL, because we've like kind of been hinting around it. We've never actually talked about it yet.
when you see
This is big
that
He's reaching for the button. Oh shit! Don't break your finger, Stuart. He's turning it off. Shit.
So
this performance makes so much more sense when you see that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like, I get to wear all that makeup, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right?
he was really excited that he gets to.
The voice is the weirdest thing I've
Yes.
ever heard in the world. Life.
I talk like this.
Is
that it?
No, you can like totally hear his voice underneath it, which I love. I like that about it.
Yeah.
At least it doesn't sound like it's.
It's just weird that it's not a Cobra Commander impression or a Dr. Mindbender impression.
well,
Like that's what's strange about it. This was also that deeply annoying era, and this is one of the first examples of that. Something that weirdly happens to Joseph Gordon-Levitt multiple times, but where studios decide they're going to try to like bamboozle audiences vis-a-vis who an actor is
Yeah.
playing. Do you know what I'm saying?
give me other.
because-
Yeah, you just say if some others.
John Harris.
Benedict
Khan, Star
Cumberbatch as
Trek,
Khan.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Robin, Marion Cotillard as Talia al Ghul, right? Like this brief window where you like everyone lies to the press, even though everyone's already figured it out.
Yeah.
So they can have like a third act reveal that never ever lands. The thing that's weird about this one is I couldn't find anything. I distinctly remember that when Joseph Gordon-Levitt was announced to be in this movie in like 2008, because I was a huge Joseph Gordon-Levitt head when this movie came out,
Yeah.
right? He was my guy. I saw everything he was in. I distinctly remember them saying he was playing Cobra Commander. And then they walked it back.
Could you find
Right.
anything?
But I couldn't find it. But I remember this happening.
Here's the thing. I watched this movie, and the entire time, I'm like, well, clearly Eccleston's going to be turned into Cobra Commander, having never seen anything G.I. Joe related.
But then he
before.
says Destro like 30 minutes
I don't
in.
know who
That's the
Destro
problem.
is.
Destro is like his sort of like right-hand man, I imagine, from what I've read about the cartoon. Yeah.
And then the twist at the end that it's actually the Doctor character. I thought he's just like playing a character named the Doctor.
Well, he's supposed to be Dr. Mindbender. Like that's the fake out they think they're doing.
Yeah, and then it turns out that Benny from the Mummy,
Kevin J. O'Connor
is playing.
Okay, here's MovieWeb in 2008, a year before the movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing the best friend to Duke, leader of G.I. Joe. Blah, blah, blah. No, this is the first thing I'm seeing about him a year out.
Maybe
and
I
they
just
don't
saw
even
fan
know.
speculation. Like I said, I'm just remembering what the tenor on this movie was coming out. That it felt like everyone knew he was playing Cobra Commander.
Cobra, magnificent creature, nature's grim reaper and symbol of lethal purpose. Unseen until it strikes. Its venom can kill a full-grown elephant with a single bite. Very nice. So
Venom can kill a full-grown elephant with a single bite.
Does it work?
Oh my
He
God.
sounds
You know
kinda
what
like,
it almost
he
is?
sounds kind of like Michael
know-
Wincott.
No, you know what it almost is?
No, a little bit.
No, guys, he's doing a pinhead. He's almost doing a pinhead voice. Like I think that's what it actually is.
Incredible, isn't it?
He'd be a good
It's like
Pinhead.
clearly
be a good
Joseph
Pinhead.
Gordon-Levitt underneath this.
Yes.
With a lot of energy here. Regular Don Johnny.
Actually, truly though, as weird as that is, the weirder voice is the voice he does as Rex in the flashback scenes.
What's his
Because he
Rex
can't
voice?
seem to say any sentence normally. Right? He almost sounds like an early AI model that doesn't know how inflection works. An insane actor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I alluded to this earlier, but you know what the other weird thing about this movie's release date is?
What?
This movie comes out August 7th, 2009, which is the same day 500 Days of Summer comes out.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
It's the weekend of JGL.
Which I wonder if that's a like opening after Yang on the same day as the Batman, so you can have the character actor
Do press
like,
both?
do press for both. You can basically suck up some of the press from the other one. But it's so weird that like one of these movies ended up being like the most iconic Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, and the other one is completely forgotten. And the one that's forgotten is the big blockbuster. Because it's not just that people forget that he's in this. This movie is no cultural tale, right?
Yeah, no one remembers this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Except for us, who've been talking about it for 2
Except for us,
Stuart's
because
never-
as
Stuart's
I have
never
said,
gonna
I
forget
think of
this
this
shit.
one incidental dialogue exchange all the time.
Yeah, you have the two scenes you remember. I'm always going to
Yeah.
remember Cobras. Fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah. In retrospect, this is a much more in line with who Joseph Gordon-Levitt is as an actor performance than the 500 Days performance. I think we were all just bamboozled after 500 Days came out to thinking that like this guy might be the next leading man, but he's too fucking insane.
Yeah, he likes crazy things.
But not even necessarily in an interesting way. He's weird.
I love him.
He's
I
deeply
love
weird.
him. I love him.
I love him. He's given one of
I
my
think he's
favorite performances
fantastic.
of all
I
time.
think he's
He's
fantastic.
responsible for my all-time favorite piece of celebrity gossip.
I think he's
Um,
fantastic.
Recently, what's the last? Is it Trial Chicago 7? Is that the last real thing he did?
No, he was in a.
Pinocchio? I'm
Was
not
it-
counting Pinocchio.
Yeah,
he voices Jiminy
you
Cricket.
have to count Pinocchio.
You do have to count
He's been in
Pinocchio.
something this year.
Yeah, he was in
Pinocchio.
Flora and Son.
No, it's not it.
He's in the next Beverly Hills Cop.
Mark,
Maybe
you're
that's
forgetting the big one.
What?
He's the
He's
dong.
in Knives Out.
Yep.
He's the dong
That's what
in
you're
Glass
thinking of.
Onion.
So the thing that's interesting about him is, so starting now, because like I said, the few years before this movie, when he basically comes back to acting after going to school, because he's a child actor, right?
Yeah.
But the few years before this movie, he puts up this run where he's getting talked about as like the next great actor, right?
Yeah.
Like Mysterious Skin, Brick, Havoc, The Lookout, Stop Loss, right? Those movies are, not big hits, but they're getting him serious critical attention. And then he does this, and everyone's like, what the fuck? And then he does 500 Days of Summer, and now he's fucking off to the races, right? And it's this run of slowly, like, lowered returns from him after 500 Days of Summer. Where he's in Inception, he's in 50-50.
Oh, sure, but even
what?
Even his post...
He's in Hesher.
And
people are like...
Electrolux, but my guess is he shot Electrolux before 500.
He shot Electrolux early, and he has a cameo in Electrolux.
Yeah.
Because he's friends with that director. But, like,
Premium
he's
Rush.
in Lincoln. He's in Premium Rush. He's in Dark Knight Rises.
He
And
does Don John.
it's never landing. And then he does Don John. And that kind of craters his career. And he does a couple more movies post Don John. And then he fully goes on, like, semi-retirement.
Yeah,
And the thing that
the
sucks-
post Don John run is Sin City, The
Yep.
Walk, The Night
Yep.
Before, Snowden.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
the next time he's the lead in a movie is 2019 in 7500.
which actually comes out in 2020.
Does he-
So with the exception of his cameos in The Last Jedi
Yeah.
and Knives Out, there's a 4-year gap when he's not in movies. And then he has come back and he's been working a lot. He was in a fucking Best Picture nominee. But, like,
Is Hit
that's the thing
Record
about Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
2013?
What?
Is Hit Record 2013?
When does he launch Hit Record?
Yeah. Is it the same year as Don
Buddy,
John?
2005.
2005?
Yes. That's the other thing about Joseph Gordon-Levitt is he launches the company that could have been YouTube. He launches a YouTube competitor the year YouTube launches.
Yeah, Hit Record
And
Joe.
but because he's so fucking weird, he, like, decides he wants it to be this, like, artistic community space and not a video hosting platform. So, like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt could have been the guy who founded YouTube, and instead, coming back from retirement 10 years after he was, like, the hottest guy in America, no one gives a shit that he's in movies anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of his own fault.
It's much like Brendan. There's a very clear
I
comparison to be
mean,
drawn.
I could
here.
list 25 Joseph Gordon-Levitt
No.
performances that are better
a
than the
very
performance
clear
Brendan
Jeff
Fraser
Harris
is.
Breaking
here.
his own arm off and holding it out with the other arm to make that reach back to Brendan.
No, there's a very clear line here.
Hi, Stuart.
Stuart's back, everybody.
And that I think that there's something to this movie being like Brendan on his way out. The movie about Brendan on his way out, where he has one scene. JGL on his way in. And yet both of them
not even on his way in so much as this sense of, like, can he jump to this next level, and him being like scorching the earth. I don't care about my career.
I'd say that this
You
is
know?
the year that he's on his way, like, into the mainstream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what
500
that's
Days
what
of Summer
500
is the
though.
one that really kickstarts it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was only on your bedroom wall before that, and then after 500 Days of Summer, he was on everybody's bedroom wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had the Mysterious Skin poster on your bedroom wall. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
so good at Mysterious Skin. He's so good in Brick.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen The Lookout?
No.
No.
The first Scott Frank movie?
No.
That movie rules.
What? When's his Bike Messenger movie? I love that
2012.
one.
No.
2012. Premium Rush.
Yeah,
Premium
that
Rush
movie's
is
great.
the year he's in 4 movies.
That's great.
It's Dark Knight
You know what
Rises,
I think-
Premium Rush, Looper, Lincoln.
Yeah.
which
You
is
know
a
what
good
I
lineup.
think really, really hurts his career almost as much as Don John?
What?
It's that everyone thinks the performance in Dark Knight Rises is silly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that he gives, like, the worst performance in Lincoln.
He's a little dodgy in Lincoln.
He's dog shit in Lincoln. It's also that Looper isn't very good. That's not his fault. That's
But
Rian
that's
Johnson's
not.
fault.
But yeah, but that's not indicative of his career. That movie, I think.
I
No,
mean,
it's
but
not.
I
You
actually
can think
do
that.
think that.
you can think that, but that is not indicative. That
Well,
movie- that
but
movie
okay, can I
only
throw
does
this out, Mark?
Good.
Can I
things
throw this
for
out,
him.
Mark?
Yeah, sure.
He has to go head with Bruce Willis in that movie, and he can't do it. He can't do it.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna
That
I'm gonna
hurts
be
your
quiet.
stock.
I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna be quiet.
That hurts your stock.
It's so great that Bruce Willis is that good in that movie.
He's great.
That's
He's
the
so good in
last
that
good
movie.
Bruce Willis year because he gives his best performance he's ever given his career that year too, and he's terrific in Looper.
He's good in Glass.
Shit. Whenever Cole just sets me up for a
He's-
little fact like that, I'm like,
Bad in Glass.
good
He
in
is
Glass.
bad in Glass. You shut the fuck up.
Good in
He's so
Glass.
bad in Glass.
He's really good in Glass. Mike,
He's
is he good
terrible
in
in Glass.
Glass? Is he good in Glass?
I'm staying out of this right now.
Stuart, you've seen Glass.
He is Stuart.
M. Night Shyamalan's Glass.
Stuart has not seen Glass.
What?
You've seen Glass. M. Night Shyamalan's Glass.
Yeah.
Is Bruce Willis good in that movie?
Oh gosh, Jeff, the back half of this whole season is gonna be so much fun for you. Oh gosh.
No.
Thank you. Stuart, my boy.
Stuart
You
with
and
the
me, Stuart.
timing
We're
of the
always
year.
simpatico.
This is gonna be better than our late stage Travolta run because at least like he likes Brendan Fraser.
Stuart has to watch and then record Furry Vengeance after this. That's my most anticipated episode
Stuart,
of
did you
this
just
whole
go?
podcast.
Did you just go and watch Furry Vengeance on 4x speed? Is that why you were gone for 30 minutes?
No.
No.
Stuart, what's your favorite scene in G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra?
I don't have one.
What's your least favorite scene, Stuart?
My favorite scene in G.I. Joe is when the movie ended.
No, I call bullshit because that's the worst scene in the movie. When the movie ends, the end credits, the worst part of this movie.
Black Eyed Peas.
It's the bad Boom Boom Pow remix.
Yeah, it's very weird that this ends with.
Yeah, this isn't a Boom Boom Pow movie. This is a Beep Beep Bop Boop movie. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I actually say what my least favorite part of this movie is?
What?
It's like 5 minutes before the end. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has just become Cobra Commander.
Yes, and then-
his voice has gotten deeper for some reason and not higher.
It's like borderline
Dude, and then-
incomprehensible.
Dude, that prison they put them in,
Yeah.
where it's just like the cylinder with the lasers,
Yeah.
and then they put the hard, like, wall shield over it. That's some terrifying shit.
Yeah.
When
that's
you
some
really
fucking
stop-
X-Men shit.
When you really stop and think about it, though,
Okay. But
Magneto had it better than that. It's not.
he's turned McCullen into Destro. He has become Commander. Call me Commander. Right? Cobra. This movie is called G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. Cobra has risen, right?
Yeah.
You're expecting that the sequel hook is going to be that Cobra Commander is out there. And then he's on a fucking submarine and Channing Tatum like pulls up in a submarine next to him and is like, Cobra Commander, you're under arrest. and Cobra Commander goes, you and whose army? And Channing Tatum just goes, my army. And then a bunch of boats pull up next to him. Stuart, can you do me a favor? Can you do an audio drop of like the world's saddest deflating balloon after I said whose army? Because it fucking
Stuart's
sucks.
gonna do that at the top of the episode. Cole. He's gonna go, guys, heads up.
I did write in my notes, intro,
Yeah.
Cobra Commander immediately arrested. Here we go.
yeah. Stuart, you probably should warn people that this episode's going to be too good for them to listen to in a single sitting. I gotta smile.
It is so funny how like it literally just cuts from him being like no to like them in this
No!
prison to them in this fucking Magneto ass.
But I'm just, 3 years later, when a little movie called The Avengers
yeah.
does the same thing, like you and what army joke, the payoff to that is like the best gag in the movie because it's fucking, I don't need an army, I have a Hulk or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like that's functionally the joke. Having just say like who and what army, this army,
And a
like,
bunch of dudes
that-
you've never
what
seen
the
before.
fuck? Yeah, like if that's the case, why haven't they been here this whole movie? Like, it's the most first draft part of this first draft.
I'm glad
movie.
you brought up the Avengers because I do want to say Alan Silvestri does the score to this movie, and it's
You
literally
couldn't tell me that.
it's literally just the score he uses in Captain America: The First Avenger and the Avengers. It's the exact same score.
Really?
If you listen, like there's even like the same riffs. He clearly just like wrote this and then like
He zimmered it. Zimmered it.
and then he just like he's like, well, no one saw G.I. Joe. I'll just use this again for Captain America, but I'll change up a few parts. Down to like when they open like the nanobot canister, it's the exact same music cue that happens when they open up the Tesseract in the Avengers. It's like the doo doo.
Is there a 4K of this? Is there a 4K of this? I know
There is a
not.
4K of this.
Of this?
Yes,
You
I
have
do
it?
not own it. I thought about buying it, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna rent G.I. Joe. I don't need to buy the 4K.
It's a movie I don't.
No. But then we got to talk about the real twist at the end of this movie. When Jonathan Pryce plays the president in like 4 scenes, completely disconnected from the rest of the plot, is the weird stuff about the president.
I love it when someone plays a president in the movie and the character is just the president.
Yes. He does not have a name, as near as I can tell. Yeah, just
That'd be a fun like program like film series to do, is movies that just have a generic unnamed president.
Yeah.
Because off the top of my head, I'm saying you could do this, you could do Iron Man 3,
Yeah,
you could do The Contender, and you could do Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I'd like to contribute something.
Yes. Hit me with it.
Did you guys already talk about the amount of times Arnold Vosloo whistles?
No.
No, but it's a nice payoff.
But except that he does it like 90 times in the movie.
Yeah.
And so when he does
People are stupid.
are they that stupid?
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Because like the whole like
Stuart, they're
twist
so
of the president.
stupid. I was like, that seems a little like, are people gonna get that?
Stuart,
I was
you were
literally
assuming that someone in the process of watching the film G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra has like 2 functioning brain cells.
I don't know. It just bothered me how
Yeah, no,
much they were
fair.
like leaning into it.
Well,
And they also show the scene where he gets his face changed. Granted, they don't show
who he's turning into.
who he's turning into, but
yeah.
you can like it. I feel like it's like this movie came out when I was a little kid, and I probably didn't like understand what was happening.
You know what part is weird to me?
What?
Is when, the president, he starts the whistling, and then like he holds up like a Wile E. Coyote style picket sign, and it just says, "I'm Zartan." And I'm like, that's a little weird that the president just has that in his office.
I really love the scene where it's just a close up on Jonathan Pryce's face, and he just goes, "So that's what this is about," and then it cuts back to the battle.
Well, and you
It's so
hear
good.
Jonathan Pryce's voice.
Yes.
He says, "Hello, Mr. President,"
Yeah.
and it's like,
It's the weird thing is that the president
Jeff, that was really funny.
the president never has a storyline with multiple. He never has a scene with any other character until this reveal.
well, and there's no. Is there a scene in G.I. Joe Retaliation where they explain all the dead bodies in the bunker? Or where all
Bold of you to assume I remember.
or where all those people went? Because he went down to the bunker with a lot of his
Yeah.
staffers, I'm assuming, in which the one Cobra Rogue
he just pushed him on the
Time
table.
out.
Secret Service.
Time out. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Hit me with it.
Rick Romanois, director of Greenland, Angel Is Fallen, and mentioned on this episode Snitch, has just announced that he is going to be doing a sequel to Cliffhanger with Stallone.
Oh, wow.
Jeff.
That is breaking news.
Jeff.
Jeff, you
Yes.
know what that means.
Stallone zone.
We got to go to the Stallone zone soon.
Jeff.
Yes,
It is 12:20.
I know. It's 12, it's actually 12:19.
We need to wrap it up.
We got 11 minutes.
We need to wrap it up.
So okay, the movie we've talked about the movie, right? I think we've covered the plot.
I can think of a couple actors we didn't get to, but
I mean, can I
guess
just
we
put a
don't
capper
have
on my
to talk
just go to
about
Rabbit
Yeah.
thing?
Hit me with it.
It's that for all that this performance is weird, none of the weirdness ends up really feeling like it matters. It's just him goofing off almost in a void.
Yes.
And he's having fun, but I don't know that it necessarily adds to anything, which is why I think I'm more inclined to give Wayans' is like doing the job performance the best in show.
But he's in a big summer blockbuster action movie, and for him, I can see him like seizing the moment and fucking showing up, putting in work. doing
I
his
just
thing.
like the Wayans brothers, and I want better for all of them always, is my big thing.
No, it's cool. He got to be an action star.
Yeah.
And it's funny that this, like, that he does share all these scenes with Channing, where Channing is like so dead.
Yeah.
And yet he's like still giving, like he could have like fed off that energy and just like kind of done a bad guy.
It's so funny.
Bad
Channing
guy.
was like so like headstrong on doing Gambit.
Yeah.
Because I just can't see
It would
him,
have been
like,
so
I
bad.
can't see him fucking delivering on that or just even committing that hard. I don't know what that was.
JGL could do Gambit.
JGL could do Gambit and he would go to jail afterwards.
He would be arrested for it. Oh, my cherie. Oh, down in the French Quarter, it's me, Gambit. Oh, wow. That's
off mic, remind me to tell you the good bit of Joseph Gordon-Levitt gossip I have.
Yes. So this movie comes out August 7th, 2009. It premieres at Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland.
I bet it went over really well.
And then it releases in 4,000 theaters. It opens number one with 55 million, 54.7 technically. It earns an additional 44 million international in the same weekend. It's the third Hasbro movie to open number one at the box office.
Mark, when the episode's over, just hit the stop button. Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting food delivered.
Whoa, Mark.
I don't.
That's
think-
really
wait,
hard, buddy.
Write it down real quick. There's like 20 buttons on there, Stuart.
Can I,
I know how to do
briefly,
it.
like, we used to be a much better country. The top 10 the week this movie opens.
Yes.
Let me just run through this for you. G.I. Joe. Julie and fucking Julie is at number 2. G-Force. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the best Harry Potter movie.
Public Enemies.
Funny People. The Ugly Truth. American Masterpiece, A Perfect Getaway. Aliens in the Attic. 500 Days of Summer. And then fucking Orphan at number 10. Like, imagine if we had a box office top 10 that was that varied and that high quality now.
Mhm.
I did a.
I don't think that's rose-colored
I
glasses.
did a drive-in double that summer of G-Force and Public Enemies. It was fantastic.
That's nuts.
It was so
Public
good.
Enemies
That's
is number
insane.
17 because, Mark, you forget Public Enemies fucking bombs.
Yeah, no, I know, but still a good summer.
That's awesome.
Is this? Is it?
Public Enemies is also 6 weeks old
Yeah.
at this point.
You didn't say Sorcerer's Apprentice, did you? It's not that summer, is it?
That's the next year. Sorcerer's
Next year.
Apprentice is
So it's
2010.
Okay.
So this movie ends up grossing 302 million worldwide on a 175 budget. It's like not enough to be a big success, but it's just enough that they're like, this is a marketable franchise.
Especially with Transformers in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Like,
They've always been talking about doing a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover.
yeah, it would be good.
It would probably be nuts. I would love it.
Did I ever
They're
tell you?
They're actually coming to arrest me right now.
I was like, I couldn't tell where the fucking sirens are coming from.
Did I ever tell you my all-time best crossover idea,
What?
Jeff? I've told this to Mark, and he knows it's good.
What is it?
You know how they wanted to do 21 Jump Street Men in Black?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what, Mark? You know what I'm about to say?
I think you might have told me this before, but hit me with it.
This is the crossover they should do with Men in Black. Is that an alien escapes in Miami, and Agent J and whoever his new partner is needs to go to Miami, but the alien's like off the
Oh, wait,
grid.
wait.
It's a shapeshifter.
Cole,
Whatever.
hold on one second. Restart what you just said to me.
Okay.
Stuart, put the headphones on. It's so important. This is so important. This is so important.
This is my best movie pitch ever. It's Men in Black 4, okay? An alien has escaped like a prison in Miami and is in the streets of Miami, but it's a shapeshifter and he's like gone underground. He has a cover identity. Agent J goes to Miami to track him down, but he can't find this alien. So he needs to go to 2 people, goes outside the MIB, interagency agreement to find the 2 people who can always get someone in Miami. And that's Detective Riggs and Murtaugh. Burnett and Murtaugh. It's fucking Men in Black 4, Bad Boys 4. Will and Will.
It's 2 wills.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
And it's Marcus Lowry.
Jeff, any final thoughts?
Lowry.
It's
Riggs
such
and
a
Murtaugh.
compelling idea for a podcast where like
Mark.
Fist could just start swinging at any
Mark,
second.
any final thoughts?
I'm so happy that I woke up and watched this
Cole,
movie,
any final
and
thoughts?
I came and had this great
I
conversation.
really love that
with
scene
3
between
of my
Marlon Wayans
closest
and what's her
Thank you,
face.
everybody, for listening to the podcast.
No,
Wait,
it was really great
really
to be on this
quick. Next
podcast. I love being on. Cole,
For-
we haven't spoken in many years. Cole,
let
it was
me
very
look
good to
up
be
the
reconnected with
episode.
you.
They make a sequel to this
via
movie called G.I. Joe
podcast.
Retaliation.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
really
gosh.
bad.
Stuart, what did you
It's
get
a
for
Rock.
DoorDash?
Next
what was
week,
your Stuart?
we'll
What did
be
you get?
talking about
I saw
the
Stuart had a
retrospective
DoorDash
for
order
the
coming and I
mainstream
couldn't really
success.
tell.
So
Oh, Stuart, what are you eating? What
thank
you
you,
eating?
everybody,
What'd you order?
and we'll be back next Friday.
What, do I not get
Appreciate
to
you all.
plug?
Bye.
Bang, bang, bang.